Good morning, everyone.
Morning. Morning.
I'd like to call the Nash County Board of Commissioners meeting for August 21st to order at this morning, at this time.
August 2nd.
Second. Okay. And a second by Commissioner Combs.
No.
Getting warmed up evidently.
It's the 21st.
21st.
Today?
2021.
Okay.
All right, I'm ready now. Anyway, on another note, I would like for y'all to recognize that we do have a empty chair at the podium this morning, and it's a burden, of course, for the Board of Commissioners. It's certainly a burden for the family and the rest of the employees. Ms. Mary Wells, of course, was with us at our last meeting, which was on July the 12th. Attended the whole meeting, participated very well. She made several motions that day, several seconds that day. And 6 days later, on July the 18th, we got the unfortunate news that she had passed away. She was in the hospital at the time. Ms. Wells had, of course, served this board and citizens of Nash County for about 12 years. We do have some flowers. I'm not sure where they came from this morning, but certainly appropriate. And I appreciate the county or whoever was responsible for that, Mr. Lamb. You've been pointed to, sir, so very thoughtful event. I asked Mr. Wells to please visit us and continue to join us and sit on his back row. And Mr. Wells, thank you for being here this morning, sir. So you certainly keep him in your prayers and the rest of the family. Ms. Wells, as we know, was an advocate that has been said many times during the last week for the children, and that's quite frankly, and youth in Nash County, and that was her passion. Ms. Wells was also very involved in the political process. She was a very avid and staunch Democrat in the party, a leader in the party. But I thought about this over the last week very much in detail, and I will say that as much as she enjoyed and participated in her party, I don't ever remember a time when she let her partisan politics get in the way of doing what was right for Nash County. And I really think our state and federal politicians could learn a lot about watching how she operated. So many times today, that's not the case. But Ms. Wells, in every instance that I'm aware of, that I remember in her term on the board, she always did what was best for the citizens, even the few times or the times that it may have been against possibly what her party believed. And for that, I appreciate that very much. And that's one of the things I will certainly remember her for. As you know, each Board of Commissioners, we start our meeting with a prayer by a commissioner. And during that time, you're welcome to join us in that prayer. Stand and join us. You're welcome to use it for your own prayer if you so like, or you're welcome to use it for a moment of silence. I will ask when the commissioners stand if we could have a few moments of silence for Ms. Wells this morning, and Ms. Leggett, when we do that, if you would then do the invocation for us, and Mr. Outlaw will do the pledge immediately after that. But with that said, could we stand at this time? Thank you.
We give thanks today for the life of Mary Wells. She was a true servant for you, Lord, for her family, and for the citizens of Nash County. We continue to pray for Mary's family as they mourn her loss on this earth. Lord, we ask you to be with all those who need your healing hand, whether it be in spirit, in mind, or in body. We ask for your presence here today as we conduct the business of Nash County. for your guidance and for your grace. All these things we ask in your precious and holy name. Amen.
Amen.
Amen. Would you join us in the pledge? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Commissioners. This time, we're at item number 4 on the agenda. We had one meeting in the month of July, which was July the 12th, and when the Commissioner is ready, I'd entertain a motion for approval of those minutes or addition of those minutes or any changes that you may see fit.
Move for approval.
Have a motion to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Harrington. Any questions on that motion? Seeing none, all in favor, let it be known by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed by a like sign? Minutes are approved, and Madam Clerk, as always, we thank you, ma'am, for the great job you do. Item 5 is an item on our agenda each first meeting of the month that is for public comment. If there's anyone with us today that has a comment they would like to bring before the board that is not otherwise on the agenda as an agenda item or a public hearing, is welcome to speak at this time. We do have a sign-up period that we sign up out front before the meeting starts, and I will call on the 3 that signed up first. And then if you happen to not understand that you did need to sign up, I'd be glad, or the board would certainly be glad to hear from you after those 3 speakers. We do still practice some of our protocol due to COVID, and we will clean the podium each time between speakers. If you would have a short pause before you come up. It has been cleaned prior to the meeting. But this time, I'd like to call on Miss Dorothy Battle. Miss Battle? There we are. Good morning, ma'am.
Morning.
Dorothy Gibson Battle, 13343 Taylor Store Road, Nashville, NC. Good morning, giving honor to God for our life and to this Board of Commissioners. My topic is still the same, Mr. Ted Williams of Yard Dog Firearms Training and Force Firearms Training. Mr. Tyson came before the Board of Adjustments on July 26 and brought evidence that proved Mr. Williams has a massive commercial shooting range set up on Taylor Store Road. The Board of Adjustment denied his appeal after viewing and hearing the evidence. He was ordered to cease the use of this property. The Board of Adjustment members thanked him for his service after he bragged about himself in law enforcement, his business, and his military service. They were just short of apologizing for denying his appeal, as they asked him what could they do for him. He said, restore Ms. Peel's use of her land as it was before. They added this as an amendment. Ms. Peel was absent. Mr. Williams admitted he has a shooting range set up on Taylor Store Road and has had it for years. He was waving a letter he said was from Mr. Tyson in 2013 that he was using as a guideline for his actions. He said, of course, when the county lawyers, Whitley and Durham, asked if he was being paid. He said there are no shooting ranges sanctioned in Nash County, but there are 7 operating in Nash County. He said the lawyers asked if he was willing to name them for the board. He said no. He said his civil rights are being violated because he is the only black instructor doing this, and the others are white men. He never denied his illegal actions. Also, I have been going to court for his noise ordinance violation since 2019, 2020. The 2 judges, Brown and Freshwater, have recused themselves from the case. He has been using a court-appointed lawyer, although he has bragged about his status, to defend him. Mr. Tyson, myself, and Mr. Pollard have been subpoenaed for that case. I received a call from Mr. Pollard this weekend. He stated that Assistant D.A. Smith informed him that the case has been dropped since the zoning violation appeal has been denied. I have not been contacted concerning this. I appeal to this Board of Commissioners to investigate in depth what is going on in this county. It is getting worse instead of better, and I hate to use the C words, corruption, conspiracy, and complicity. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Battle. Next speaker is a Sydney Dunstan. Good morning, Mr. Dunstan.
Good morning, Mr. Davis. How are you this morning?
Great, sir. Hope you are.
Good morning to the Nash County Board of County Commissioners. I want to, first of all, to extend my gratitude and my thanks to you for allowing me this time to come and speak with you. Also want to personally express my sympathy to you in the loss of Mrs. Mary Wells. I've known her for about 20 years now, and certainly Nash County has suffered a great loss. And Mr. Wells, we'd like to express our personal sympathies to you as well. My purpose for being here this morning is to address you as relates to the American Rescue funding that I understand and realize that Nash County has received some $18.3 million from that fund. And the Treasury Department has provided guidance to ensure that the funds are allocated and are used to provide immediate relief assistance to households, small businesses, and nonprofits, and also to impacted industries as well. I don't have to tell you, because you're well aware, that no one in this room has witnessed anything like we have witnessed within the past 15 or 16 months. Nobody has indeed in this room has been alive to witness a pandemic like we're in the midst of right now. And the thing that I want to impress upon you is that whenever the country catches a cold, there's a segment of the population of the country as well as a segment of the population in Nash County who catches pneumonia. And so when we receive funds, we realize that there's a segment who is in need. We realize that there are some things that we want, and certainly there are some issues and some monies that need to be spent on infrastructure as it relates to pipes in the grounds and wires in the air and that type of thing, as it relates to sewer and that type of thing, and we certainly support that. But we also want you to understand that there are residents that across this county who are desperately need assistance in the allocation of funding specifically to Nash County. And if it's administered properly, then we believe that this will be a bridge to bridge these particular groups across the gap and to be able to continue to survive. We realize that on today that there are a number of people who are going to be displaced because of the lack of extending the rental assistance program. And we're not certainly advocating for anyone who's trying to scam that system. But we also realize that there are a number of people who are legitimately, they're hardworking people. And because of the pandemic, they have not been able to balance between working low-paying jobs, child care, and that type of thing, and they need the assistance. Otherwise, they will end up in the throes and in the homeless shelters of our cities and our counties. So we want to ask you and to urge you to please to look very critically, very close at the possibilities of extending helps to those people. We realize that our students, and when I say our students, I mean our students, especially the minority students, are adversely affected by the pandemic because of the lack of broadband, especially in our rural communities. I serve a congregation on Taylor Store Road, and Cloudwise is just not getting it done as far as broadband. I don't know if you're aware of that. I'm sure Z Lamb is, but maybe we need to crank up cloud-wise a little bit, because I would think that it wouldn't be a problem to get the high-speed internet at 1104 Taylor Store Road. CenturyLink stops, of course, at the bridge, and if you're going to spend money, I would certainly urge you to spend some money in extending broadband out that way, because it's our students who are going to suffer. They don't have access, and since they don't have access, of course, that means that they fall behind. And so I'm urging you as commissioners, I believe that Mary Wells would support me in this quest, that you indeed, as you spend this $18.3 million, please don't spend it and put it all in the ground. But remember that there are other infrastructure interests as well. There's human infrastructure as well as physical infrastructure. Thank you so much again for the opportunity to speak with you, and I certainly hope that you don't take my request lightly. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Duncan. Pleased to have you here this morning. Our next speaker is Shelton Daniels. Good morning, Pastor Shelton.
Good morning.
Glad to have you this morning, sir.
Good to see you as well, sir. To all of our commissioners, thank you for allowing me the opportunity to come just for a few moments. Pastor Dunstan has just about shared all that I came to talk about, but I will just begin by saying that I represent Greater George Church, sitting in the center of the southern part of Nash County, and it is one of the poverty-stricken, low-income places in our city. And I also stand to represent the Eastern North Carolina Ministerial Alliance, which is comprised of over 100 pastors. Majority of them are in our Nash County area. And just as Mr. Dunstan stated, I just wanted to briefly say that we are aware of the funding that is available, and we're just hoping that there is I guess just an equitable distribution of the funds. We know about broadband, we know about some of the other high-level things that need to be done, but there is much pain, and there is much need for help especially in my community. And I'll begin by saying we're not just asking for to throw something else, because we've been working hard to make it happen. You guys know that I've been an advocate of community development for many years, and we've been doing the things such as COVID clinics and all the things we can do to partner with what you, the health departments, and other folks are doing. We just want to make sure that our people are able to receive from these fundings. It's $18.3 million of funding, so that our people can rise up out of it. This has been a gruesome 18 months in our community, and we are still trying to recover. And as we look at these funds and what they should be used for, we're just asking that we don't just high level, and I know broadband is huge and it is needed, but the nonprofit organizations, the community organizations that are working with the immediate needs of people, want to make sure that we are included in the use of these funds. So we just appeal to you in the work that you're doing. We just appeal that you would keep your eye on the ball of where the low-hanging fruit of our folks that are the boots on the grounds that are making these things happen for our people don't get overlooked. Thank you so much for it.
Thank you, sir. Good to see you this morning. That are the three speakers that I had sign up before the meeting. Is there anyone else with us today that came to speak that didn't realize you needed to sign up? The board would certainly be glad to hear from you at this time if it's not covered on the agenda otherwise. Not seeing any movement in the audits, I will move to item number 6, which is a public hearing. It is for the detention facility proposed installment financing. and the preliminary finding resolution. And at this time, Ms. Wood, do I call directly on Mr. Cole, or do you want to speak first?
You can call on Mr. Cole.
Okay. Ted Cole, please come forward, sir. You had her a little nervous there this morning, Ted.
Apologize, cut it a little closer than I
Okay.
had intended, but
Please introduce yourself and move forward with
I
your
will.
presentation.
Thank you. Good morning. I'm Ted Cole with Davenport and Company, and we serve as financial advisor to the county and have for a number of years on various projects, capital planning and financings. This morning, as your agenda says, there's a public hearing that will be held for a detention center project. There is a resolution that's been prepared by the county's bond council that would be the first of two approvals that would be necessary to move forward for the financing of the detention center. So the first of two, public hearing required, two resolutions, one today. And then I'm here to discuss the financing process that we have been working with staff on over the last several weeks, sort of coinciding with the project bidding schedule, working towards a local government commission application and approval at their September meeting. I believe you all should have in your packets, and if anybody needs a hard copy, I've got some. It's a memo dated August 2nd. If anybody does not have that, let me know. I'm happy to pass some out.
We have.
Good, okay. As I said, we have been working to line up the financing for this project. We conducted, along with your staff, requests for proposals and sent that out to a pretty wide range of banks that we typically do. For those of you that were here earlier in the year, it's a very similar process to what we did for your school project. Through the process of the RFP, we did receive 6 different proposals from banks. Some of these will be names that you all recognize, and some may not be, but they are all active in the world of municipal finance and lending, and we deal with most of these on a pretty regular basis. Of note, item number 6, Truist Bank, that is the new name for the merged BB&T and SunTrust, just as an FYI. So those are the 6 proposals that we received to the RFP. And if you go to page 2, and please stop me at any point if there's a question or you need a clarification. I'm happy to talk through anything. We have summarized on page 2 in table 1 the 6 different proposals. We did ask for we asked for 4 options. First, we asked for 15-year payback, and we asked for 20-year payback. Just wanted to see what the banks would propose. I think the asset itself that you're going to be building certainly is expected to have a useful life of 20 years, but you may choose to repay the debt over a shorter period of time. So 15 versus 20. And then within each of those, 15 and 20, we looked at option 1 and option 2 for the 15-year. The difference is in option 1, we went straight into principal and interest repayment from the very first year. So we started with the payment on FY23. So we're in FY22. We would be closing in the next month or so. And if you decide to move forward, you won't have a payment either way until the next fiscal year. That's the way we set it up, so that you've got FY22 without a payment, and we start our payments in FY23. And the difference between those options is we either go right into principal and interest, which is option 1, or in option 2, we do 1 year of interest only, essentially during construction. We still pay it back over the same 15 years, but the 14 remaining years after year 1 are a slightly higher payment because you didn't have any principal in the first year. So it allows you to ease into that payment a little bit. The local government commission is usually just fine with that approach.
Will that, you're paying interest the first year, and the other 14, you're not? Is that what you're saying?
No, the first year you are paying interest only, and then the other 14, you're paying principal and interest, but it's going to be at a slightly higher amount because, compared to the first case, because you didn't make any principal the first year. And at the end of the 15-year term, between the two options, there's about an additional $140,000 that you pay because you didn't make the principal the first year. And I think again, the only reason you might consider doing that is because it gives you a little bit of cushion that first year, FY23, and then the payments start in principal and interest in FY24. So it was just an option that we wanted to explore, particularly as it relates to how all of this fits into your overall debt profile. And I'm going to show you the difference between the two. Yes, sir.
To me, I don't see an advantage there. Maybe you help me a little bit. I'm looking at it that in those last 14 years, they're making up for what they didn't get.
Correct, and then some.
The first, yes.
Correct, and it does over that same 15-year period for the same borrowing amount at the same interest rate, it does result in an additional approximately $140,000 of interest because you're paying that principal back a little bit slower than you would have otherwise. And the only reason you might consider that is, again, just in the bigger context of your debt budgeting and your debt profile, does that first year of interest only help a little bit? I can tell you we've run through an analysis, and there's a lot of info behind this memo that would support it with your staff. You can make this work either way. The revenues have been identified in your debt budgeting process to be able to accommodate what we're calling this option one, where you go right into the principal and interest payments. So it is certainly, if you will, affordable, and it works within your debt budgeting practices.
Ted, I think the way I understand it is you're going to be paying interest on interest for the last 14 years. So not because you accumulated that first year. But what do we do on the school financing, if you remember?
I can tell you, if you give me just 1 second, I think we went straight into, and Donna or Z may recall definitively, but I've got some info on the schools.
We did. I just wanted you to tell us what we did. Okay.
I think you went straight into principal and interest in year one, which would be consistent with what I'm calling here option one.
One, correct. Thank you.
Okay.
Go ahead.
So on page 2, that's the difference. When you look at columns B and C, those are both 15-year terms. The debt would be prepaid at the same final payment, just a little bit of difference in that first year. We've highlighted in green the two proposals that we came to a conclusion were the most viable to be discussed with you all in detail, and that's from Sterling Bank, which, again, is not necessarily a household name to you all. They don't have branches here, but they do a lot of lending in North Carolina, and we work with them very regularly. You can see between option 1 and 2, they were a 170 versus a 172. That's a fixed rate for the entire term versus Truist, which was a 182 or a 183. And then the same thing is going on the 20-year terms, column D and E. Go right into level payments or principal and interest payments in option 3, or do 1 year of interest only in option 4. Same dynamic. It eases into the payment for a year, but then it does add to the overall payback. And you can see those rates are a 210 versus a 212 from Sterling, or a 222 versus a 223 from Truist. Okay? So we go on from there to page 3. Another, I think, relevant factor to discuss at the top of page 3 in table 2 is the prepayment provisions. We are at very low rates, and these are pretty attractive rates for 15 and 20 years, but nonetheless, there may be a need, an opportunity to refinance or prepay this debt in the future. So we want to make sure we understand what the prepayment flexibility is. Under Sterling Bank, you can see they have about 5 years of no prepayment, so you're not able to prepay it for the first 5 years. And then depending on the term, you'll have a 1% penalty to prepay through years 8 or 9, and you can prepay it without any penalty following that. Truist gives you some options. You can have the ability to prepay the loan with a 1% penalty for the entire term, so you could literally turn around the day after you close and prepay it with a 1% penalty all the way through year 15 or 20, depending on which option you choose. Or the first half of the loan is not prepayable, and the second half of the loan is prepayable without a penalty. So you have an option with Truist. But both of them do allow for some prepayment sooner or later, but generally do allow for it on a pretty equivalent basis after year 5. The banks will be represented by their own attorneys. That's item number 3 here. Sterling will have an attorney that represents them, but they cover the cost of that, whereas Truist will pass that cost along, and that's at $7,500. So if you flip to page 4, this is really where I think the numbers play out, and my page is a bit faint. I hope you all can see it okay. I'm going to sort of cut to the chase of what our collective recommendation is at this point based on a project that's about $13.5 million. It's column B and column D. Both of those are with Sterling Bank. Column B is the 15-year option where we go right into principal and interest payments. Column D is the 15-year option where we do 1 year of interest only. And you can go down the line and you can see on line 6 that under these numbers we are funding at closing about $13.6 million for the project. And I understand that is all evolving with bids coming in and whatnot, but that's the sort of the assumption we're running at this point for this analysis and discussion. 13.6, we've added any cost of issuance on top of that. And we are running on line 12 the rates that they provided. So under column B, it's the 170 rate. Under column D, it's the 172 rate. That ties back to Sterling's 2 options for the 15-year term. And then you can see the annual debt service starting there on line 20. And under column B, you go right into a payment of about $1,114,000. And over the years, as you go down, the payment steps down, and the total payback on line 42 is about $15,583,000. Okay? Compare that with column D. Your first year, because it's interest only, is about $200,000, but then your next year steps up and it declines year over year, such that on line 42, with that option, you pay back $15,723,000. And the difference is at the very bottom of column D. It's about $140,000 difference over the life of the loan. And so that's where we had gotten to in discussing this with your staff, counsel, bond counsel, and county attorney, is that for this project, we are recommending that you all consider Sterling 15-year, either option 1 or option 2. That's sort of stated at the top of the next page in our recommendation section. And we wanted to just talk through that dynamic of option 1 versus option 2 before we firmed up that recommendation, give you all an opportunity to understand what the difference is on the 1 year of interest only and what the total payback would be between those 2 options. We did discuss the 20-year option. It certainly makes the cash flows a little easier, if you will, because the payments are lower. But I think the consensus was of the group when we talked last week that you all are in a position to be able to repay this comfortably within a 15-year term, and that was sort of where we all landed, that the 15-year term would be most appropriate to try to pay this off on a faster pace and not incur that additional 5 years of debt service. So, big picture, and then I'm happy to entertain questions. We're here today. You're going to hold a public hearing. We would like to have you all give us some guidance on the bank that we want to move forward with and which option. And if that were to occur, we're working with staff to submit an LGC application. You all have a September 7th meeting at 9 a.m. That's your regularly scheduled meeting, I believe, and that's where you would consider the second of two approvals, what we call the approving resolution. LGC would meet on September 14th. That's the meeting we're targeting for their approval, and then we'd be in a position to close by the end of the month. There are a number of things behind this memo that I'd be happy to go through, but it's a lot of what we've discussed, just a bit more detail. We have vetted Sterling and Truist's proposals pretty thoroughly with staff and council. I think we're all comfortable. Not unlike the school financing, this is going to be a loan between you and a bank, and it'll be secured by the asset that you're building, the detention center. That will serve as collateral or the mortgage, and you'll be making payments each year as appropriated by you all as part of the budget. So there is a resolution, I believe, in your packet, again, that you all may want to consider today following the public hearing. Any questions?
Yeah. Are there any banks that don't charge a penalty when you're paying on the principal?
From time to time, yes, sir, we do see that. That is one, well, you can see how different the rates are from one bank to the other. The prepayment language is also one of those items where they can vary quite a bit. Southern Bank, as an example, and that is the bank that we funded the school through, they typically do not charge a prepayment penalty. In this case, you'll notice that they did not submit a proposal. They reached out to us and said, given that they were awarded the school financing and maybe had a few other loans with you all, they just felt like they were at a level internally where they felt like they had enough loan outstanding with you all as a single entity that they just they chose to pass on this particular RFP. We see that pretty commonly. Many banks have internal requirements or even external requirements about how much lending they can do to any one borrower, and I think that's the case. But to your question, that would be an example of a bank that oftentimes allows for prepayment without a penalty.
Well, that's the issue that bothered me. I'm dealing with it with another agency now, charging a penalty if you pay on the principal. You're making the regular payment, and then you want to add on principal on it. Well, if you do that, it's going to be a penalty, and it's a pretty big penalty, too.
Yes, 1% penalty on $1 million is $10,000. So in Sterling's case, just to restate, because I think it's a good opportunity, what they're saying is there would be no prepayment for the first 5 years, and there would be a 1% penalty through year 8, so 6, 7, and 8, and following year 8, there would be no penalty. So you would have about 7 years on the back end of the loan where you could prepay or refund the loan without a penalty. And I don't pretend to know how each one of these banks comes up with their proposals and their rates, but they figure that into it, and they assign a rate to the loan. But the prepayment language they come up with is, I think, just part of their overall calculation of what kind of return they'd be looking for. So while they give you the ability to prepay with a penalty, I think that's just all part of the economics that they look at when they're assessing the opportunity and assigning an interest rate.
Other questions of Mr. Cole?
Would it be a kind of a rarity that we would pay off that kind of loan early at a 1.7% interest rate?
It would be close to impossible, quite frankly.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. So that would
If we
be
get something
immaterial.
better than that, we're not going to like where we are
Yeah.
on many other points, quite frankly.
Yeah, I think you would find yourselves in a situation where maybe you had funds that you didn't have other needs for, that you might say, I want to pay this loan down. I suspect when we look at your overall debt profile of other loans out there, there are probably other loans that would be more advantageous to pay off than this. Or you would, rather than just paying it off, you might want to refund it in the future for savings like you would for a mortgage, but it's difficult to do at that initial rate of a 170. But, 7.5 years from now, if you go with the 15-year loan, it's only a 7-year loan at that point. And, there may be an opportunity to refund it. We're certainly not counting on that, but that's also about the period of time where you enter into their no penalty language.
Other questions? Mr. Aaron?
Anyway, on option 1 versus option D, our first payment would be exceeding pretty close $900,000, right? The difference that first year.
That's correct. That's because in
Right.
column B, there's principal,
Right.
whereas in column D, it's only the interest.
Right. So I guess we kind of asked the question whether we need to cough up an additional $900,000 first year versus, since we got 15 years to finance that. That's it.
Other thoughts? Questions? Ted, in defense of our local bank that the county uses, Southern Bank, I heard your explanation. That was a small part of the decision, but the big part of the decision, as I understand it, was that bank wants a certain amount in this type loan and this overall, whether it's Nash County or in their overall portfolio. And this would have put them over that overall amount. That's why they chose not to do it, not because of an over-concern about having too much credit with one entity being Nash County.
I appreciate that. Yeah, we did not get that far with them, but that makes sense. We hear that from time to time or fairly regularly, that they only have so much capacity for tax-exempt
Correct.
loans, and
I think that was definitely the problem here, because we were somewhat disappointed that they chose not to, but we somewhat understand that decision.
Right.
All right. Anything else for Mr. Cole? Stacy or Donna, I'm a little bit confused about my chairman's agenda, whereas we are going to have a public hearing and it is properly notified. Okay. And there is, which it doesn't mention on here, about the other item. Are we going to adopt that as well today? Okay. All right. Just want to be sure we're in proper form to do that. Okay, well, so no other questions. I'd entertain a motion to go into public hearing on this item. Moved by Commissioner Leggett. Is there a second? Second by Commissioner Combs. Questions on the motion? All in favor of that motion, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed by a like sign? Ladies and gentlemen, we are in a public hearing at this time. If there's anyone here today that wishes to speak to the board about this loan that we're looking to do, for or against it, we'd be glad to hear from anyone at this time. Just come forward and state your name and address for the record. Donna, did you wish to add anything to what's said, or you good? Okay. All right, seeing no one wishes to speak, I'd entertain a motion to close the public hearing at this time.
So moved.
Moved by Commissioner Arrington. Is there a second? Second. Second by Commissioner Outlaw. Any questions on that motion? All in favor of the motion, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed by a like sign? The public hearing is now closed. If y'all could guide me, do you want to approve it first and then approve the, what was the item called?
The preliminary findings resolution,
Yes. Which one do I need to do first?
you can approve the preliminary findings resolution, and then we can move forward with the financing option.
Okay. That suits you, Mr. Attorney?
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right. At this time, I'd entertain a motion to approve the preliminary finding resolution.
So moved.
Moved by Commissioner Outlaw. Is there a second? Second by Commissioner Leggett. Questions on that motion? All in favor of the motion, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed by a like sign? Preliminary finding resolution stands approved, and at this time, I would entertain a motion to approve or deny the request.
Make a motion, we approve the request.
Have a motion to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Arrington. Motion by Commissioner Combs. Questions on that motion? Only question I would have, Mr. Lamb or Ms. Wood, either one, the fact that we were considerably over on these bids, are we going to address that in financing, or we have determined not to address it in finance, and we're going to handle it other ways, or is that something we can decide at a later date?
We did, after the bids came in, have discussion with Ted and bond counsel and everyone, and they reached out to Sterling, and we have the option at the same rate of increasing the amount of the loan. But we haven't finalized what those numbers should be. As you know, we do have a very comfortable fund balance.
Yes, sir.
And we also are exploring the use of the American Rescue Plan monies for the conversion of the dorm into single cells.
Gotcha. Okay. So approving this doesn't keep us from adding borrowing to it if we so choose.
Yeah, we may need to do another public hearing if we increase the amount.
Okay. Okay. All right. We have a motion and a second to approve the request.
Can I ask a question?
You can, sir.
Are we approving Sterling in this thing, or are we approving option one?
We are approving Sterling, and I assume, which I should not have done, that the motion was for option one, Mr. Outlaw?
Yes,
Okay.
15-year option one.
Okay,
Okay.
and the second of that, Ms. Leggett?
Yes.
Okay.
But we can discuss that.
Which is
Oh, we can discuss it now, sir.
Okay.
That's not a problem. Do you-
option, I'm sorry.
And I apologize for not making that clear, but the motion, as the maker said, was for option one, and the secondee was for option one, and we are now in a discussion period. Mr. Arrington, your comment, sir?
Well, I don't like option one. I think option D is a better plan. I don't think we need to put an additional $900,000 into the first year. Over a 15-year period, the difference is like $139,000. So a lot of things could change, and possibly we could use that $900,000 for something else that we don't foresee at this time. But I think option D is a better financial position.
Okay. Other comments?
Yeah, man.
Mr. Belfield?
I would just like to ask the staff, did you all have any direct communication with the one you're recommending here, with the bank officials, financial institution officials?
Mr. Cole and his staff did. That's how,
Yeah, but I want to know if,
no, I have not talked to, I haven't.
what about the finance director?
No.
She indicated she had not, Mr. Belfield, which it would not be expected, I don't think, since we hired someone to handle this financing for us. But your
Well,
point is?
Yeah, I understand that, but this is, to me, it's a complicated issue that to make sure that we're on the right page, on the best page.
Okay. Well, do you have additional questions for Mr. Cole? It's very similar or identical to the previous financings that we have done of this nature.
Well, he's made the presentation.
Okay.
It's just, I just have a problem with the way these banks are doing it now anyway.
Well, if I could ask you a question, I don't want to get in whatever you're referring to, but it sounded like you were referring to making additional principal payments, not an early payoff. In other words, if you had a loan that was $200 a month and you want to pay $250, they were going to penalize you for doing that. Is that what you're looking at?
Yeah, I have a concern about that.
Okay.
I
And
do.
Mr. Cole, I understood what he was asking. I'm just making sure you understood that he was talking about paying additional principal, not paying the loan off. And is your answer the same if that's what he would?
It is, yes. Even partial prepayments they're not permitted for the first 5 years,
Gotcha.
and then they would be applicable to a penalty.
Gotcha, okay. I did want to clear that up. And I
But
almost
even
had.
though you not committed for the first 5 years, but if you decide that you want to, is there a penalty for doing it?
Well, for the first 5 years, sir, they're just not permitted to, I mean,
It would be a credit on your next year payment.
yeah, it's probably, yes, sir, I think that's accurate.
Okay.
I think, Mr. Belfield, the reason for that would certainly be that there's certainly got to be a considerable cost for the bank that's making this loan to go through it. And they would want to make sure they're in it long enough to recover, at least to get them back even, and we didn't go in a month or a year later and pay it all off and leave them not having to gain enough interest to pay whatever the cost would have been at that point, since it's a staggered term like that. But any other questions from
Well,
Commissioners?
I understand you're working to get the best deal you can,
Yes, sir.
but even the best ones out there are not suitable for me.
I hope you don't need to borrow much money
Things
then,
have
sir.
changed, so, because when I had a loan for 30 years, I paid it off in 15 years, no penalty
Yeah.
at all.
Did you have a 1.7%? Don't answer.
No, it wasn't that high.
And I think that's
It
pretty
wasn't all
standard
that cheap either.
in personal loans, that particularly mortgages, they're not able to
So
charge you a
there's a
penalty.
difference in business loans than an individual personal loan.
There are differences.
Quite a bit.
And of
Quite a
course,
bit.
you know, I or anyone else on this board can borrow money at 1.7%, even though it's god awful close right now. Quite frankly, it's a lot closer than I've ever seen it. Other question, I do have a motion on the floor and I have a second.
I want to
Yes, sir, Mr. Harrington.
ask the administration, Mr. Lamb, y'all recommend option one, and if so, your rationale?
We had quite a few discussions on the issue of whether we wanted to do fixed principal plus interest or defer any principal for the first year. That's why we decided it was such a close call that we would bring both of them to you and let you decide which option you prefer. Clearly, if you defer principal the first year, you are paying about $40,000 over the life of the loan, which effectively increases the interest rate that you're paying, even though it says 1.72. I would think it'd be a little more, but I don't think you can go wrong. I can tell you the finance officer's initial recommendation, and I'll let her speak for herself if I'm speaking out of turn, was to go with the deferred principal. My initial was to go ahead and do the straight 15, but both of us feel like you really can't go wrong either way. You got an interest rate of 1.70, 1.72. It's that close, and again, we have a recommendation that you take one of the two. Is quite frankly our recommendation.
The board thanks y'all for that recommendation. Mr. Lamb and Ms. Wood. Since there's been.
That was a middle of the road recommendation.
Yeah, that's exactly what it was. Now that it's out on the table, I would say to the board that I'm totally in favor of option one. No matter how you look at it, we are spending taxpayers' money. And I try to look at things that I vote on this board, like I would look at my own situation and what I would do. But, you know, $140,000 is $140,000 that we can save. And certainly, if we were in a situation where we had any concern that we would be able to make these payments or needed that year, I would certainly consider that. But honestly, Nash County's financial situation is in such a shape that it's certainly not going to be a burden to us. We are fortunate to have the fund balance that we've got. We are fortunate to get a 1.7% loan. We've got a 1.7% loan because of our fund balance, which drives our bond rating. And I just think we need to continue operating like we've always operated, certainly not always, but in my time on the board, or from my memory, which is not as long as my time on the board anymore, quite frankly, we've generally done 15-year financing where we could. So I would certainly support the motion that's at hand. Other comments?
So we're going to take it out of fund balance first?
Sir?
We're going to take the first payment out of the fund balance? Is that what you're saying?
No, not necessarily. I mean, we've actually got funds already in a fund that we have previously approved for this project that the first payments would be coming out of. It wouldn't be out of fund balance. I'm just referring to fund balance as something we should have other unforeseen things come up. We certainly have the fund balance to cover any additional payments that we would have to make.
Mr. Chairman, the first payment will be included in the 22-23 budget that y'all will pass next June.
Next year. Mm-hmm.
So it will be part of the hodgepodge of revenues and expenditures. Whether or not we'll have to increase fund balance appropriated, we don't know at this time.
Okay. Other comments? I have a motion to approve option B on your program, which is 15 years with payment starting the first year, which is next year, with principal. All in favor of that motion, let it be known by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed by a like sign?
Opposed.
Okay. Well, motion carries 5-1. Thank you all. And thank you, Mr. Cole. That was the last vote I need to take on that item. Yes. All right. We'll move on now to item number 7, which is a public hearing on conditional rezoning request CZ 210603 to rezone 121.5 acres of land on Strickland Road to RA20 conditional use for the Strickland Road Phase 1 subdivision. Mr. Tyson, good morning, sir.
Good morning. This public hearing we're going to hold this morning, the board will recall, was previously advertised to be held at your July 12th meeting. However, the matter was tabled at the request of the applicant, and the public hearing was continued to this meeting date. The property is also slightly different than what you saw in July. The request previously included additional land located on the north side of Strickland Road, but that portion of the project has been withdrawn from consideration by the applicant at this time. So it is just the portion of the property that is highlighted in red on the screen, which is found on the south side of Strickland Road. The subject property consists of portions of 2 adjacent tracts of land owned by L&F Farms LLC. It totals approximately 121.5 acres, and as noted, it's on the south side of Strickland Road. This area is northeast of the town of Bailey, and as you can see from the green on the zoning map on the right, it is currently zoned R40 single-family residential. The property is mostly undeveloped and currently used for agricultural purposes, as you can see in the aerial photo to the left. It includes a 100-foot wide electrical transmission line easement, as well as areas of existing wetlands that are unsuitable for development. You can see the electrical transmission line easement entering the property here and crossing along the very southernmost portion. And then the areas that are identified as wetlands are along the southern and western sides here. The site is located north of properties that the board will be very familiar with on the zoning map, down here along Needham Road, Whitley Road, Stony Hill Church Road, Juniper Road, and Chapman Road. These properties were previously rezoned by the board to a mixture of RA20 CU, RA30 CU, and RA30 to accommodate the development of the Williams Ridge, Williams Grove, and Whitley Crossing subdivisions. Of course, Williams Ridge would be on the southern side of the road, Williams Grove would be this area, and Whitley Crossing is this parcel right here. The East Group, on behalf of the developer, the CT Williams Corporation, has submitted a request, conditional rezoning request, to rezone the property to RA20CZ, Medium Density Residential Conditional Zone, specifically for the development of a 148-lot residential subdivision known as the Strickland Road Subdivision Phase 1. There are 4 substantial impacts that this rezoning would have. The required minimum lot area would be reduced by half, from 40,000 square feet that are currently required to 20,000 square feet per lot, which would double the potential permitted residential density. There are 9 land uses that are currently permitted in the R40 zoning district that would no longer be permitted for development under the proposed RA20CZ zoning district. Double-wide manufactured homes, rural family occupations, radio or communication towers over 60 feet in height, solar farms, non-hazardous solid waste disposal collection sites, utility field offices, water treatment plants, horse shows, and turkey shoots. Obviously, because this is a conditional zoning, the subject property can only be developed in accordance with the proposed site plan, which we'll review shortly. And due to the conditional nature of the rezoning, there is the opportunity to add additional conditions as requirements for the development of the property with the consent of the applicant. As always, when we examine a rezoning, we look first to our land development plan. And the map that's on the screen there indicates the property, as is the entire area, designated as suburban growth area. The plan supports the rezoning of property located within this area where public water service is available to either RA30 or RA20 at the board's discretion. The developer would be required as a condition of this rezoning to extend Nash County Public Water Service from either the west, which it terminates right about here just west of the existing property. That's a 4-inch existing county water line. Or they could also approach from the southeast. There is an existing 6-inch water line that currently terminates at the intersection of West Orange Church Road and Needham Road, which would be down here. But in either case, the developer would be required to extend the public water service to serve any new lots subdivided from the subject property. And of course, finally, permitting higher density residential development does help to accommodate the significant residential growth that the plan anticipates for this area. If we can return to the zoning map, you will see that for some context, this request would not be considered unreasonable spot zoning because the subject property already is and will continue to be zoned for residential use, similar to the adjacent and surrounding properties. Approval of the request would permit smaller minimum lot areas and increased residential development density, but the new zoning, as mentioned, is also more restrictive in terms of land uses. The large size of the property demonstrates that we would be establishing a new zoning district. The property, as noted, has potential access to public water service. The request is consistent with the land use plan recommendations as we've discussed. Due to the conditional nature, the property will only be developed in accordance with the approved sketch plan. And finally, the request is consistent with the previously approved RA20CU zoning districts located to the south. The sketch plan that has been submitted is on the screen before you. Again, that's prepared by the East Group on behalf of the developer and will serve as the required site plan for the rezoning request. There are 148 new residential lots proposed for development on the subject property. Of those 148, only one will be accessed directly from Strickland Road. And that is Lot 1, which is the easternmost lot, the triangular shaped lot indicated on the screen right there. That lot, due to the lack of depth of the property at that point, would be accessed directly by Strickland Road. All the other 147 proposed lots would be accessed by interior roads. These lots that are adjacent to Strickland Road will actually back up to the state road. They will have a 5-foot non-access easement that will make them ineligible for driveway permits along that road, and will be served instead by the interior road that runs along their southern boundary. All the proposed lots either meet or exceed the standard 20,000 square foot minimum lot area and 100-foot minimum lot width requirements of the proposed zoning district. There would be no requirement for any shared driveways, so all lots would be eligible for their own individual driveway. The plan includes stub roads for future connectivity with the immediately adjacent properties to the east. You'll note Caterpillar Way here, which provides access to that property for future development and connectivity. There is Dragonfly Street, which provides access to the west right here, and Grasshopper Way, which provides access to the south right here. The design includes a special purpose lot located between lots 138 and 139 right here, which would be designated for a cluster box unit mailbox kiosk, as is typically required by the U.S. Postal Service for new development. There is a 30.6 acre common area that includes the area of the transmission line easement and the wetlands areas that are not very suitable for development. That common area is not used as part of a cluster design. This is not a cluster subdivision. All of the proposed lots would meet the 20,000 square foot minimum lot requirement of the zoning district if it was approved. The Technical Review Committee considered this back on June the 3rd and recommended approval. The Planning Board considered this request on June 21st. There's a list of members of the public in your report that addressed the board in opposition to the request. They cited concerns regarding the increased residential density, potential water quality impacts, the proximity of the proposed development to existing agricultural operations, and the impact of the proposed subdivision to traffic safety along Strickland Road. I would also call to your attention that several of these individuals that are listed in your report also stated their concerns related to preserving their access to adjacent properties and homes along existing paths on the north side of the property. However, since that planning board meeting, as I noted at the opening of the report, that northern portion of the property has been withdrawn for further consideration by the applicant. And so to my knowledge, there are no easement issues or existing path issues with the southern part of the property, which is what's on your agenda today. With a split vote of 4-2, the planning board recommended approval of consistency statement A, finding the request to be reasonable, in the public interest, consistent with the land development plan, and not unreasonable spot zoning. The board also recommended approval of the request to rezone the property from R40 to RA20CZ, subject to a list of recommended development conditions, which I'll review. There is going to be a two-motion process. The first motion is to adopt a consistency statement, and the second motion is actually to approve or deny the zoning map amendment. There is a list of 8 conditions that are recommended by both the Technical Review Committee and the Planning Board for attachment should the board vote to approve the rezoning. The first, of course, is that the property should be only developed in accordance with the approved sketch plan. Secondly, the property may be developed for any of the land uses that are typically permitted in the RA20 zoning district. Third, all residential lots subdivided from the subject property must be served by the Nash County Public Water System, which shall be extended as necessary. Fourth, all the new road names will need to be reviewed and approved by Nash County Emergency Services. Fifth, The developer will submit a stream buffer determination issued by the state for the potential stream located near the White Oak Swamp, and that's in the areas that I indicated were unsuitable for development and contain wetlands. Lot 1, which you'll recall is the only lot to have access directly on the Strickland Road, must have the sufficient lot width to satisfy the dimensional requirements of the ordinance for residential lots with direct access to roads with over 1,000 estimated average vehicular trips per day. So that means that Lot 1 will need to range somewhere between 150 to 200 feet wide at the front setback to satisfy those requirements for extra wide lots on heavily traveled roads. And as mentioned, lots 2 and lots 69 through 94, which is the top row of lots that will back up to Strickland Road, will require a 5-foot wide non-access easement to ensure that they are only accessible from the interior roads of the subdivision. And that is noted by the developer on sketch plan note number 9. And then finally, if there are significant or substantial modifications or revisions to the design that may be approved today, of course, that could potentially trigger re-review by the Technical Review Committee, the Planning Board, as well as possibly this board at the discretion of the zoning administrator. Mr. Cecil Williams is here today to represent the request, and this is the first time that we will be doing a conditional zoning without the requirement of a quasi-judicial public hearing because of the amendments to the state general statutes, and then of course the incorporation of those amendments into our ordinance at the July 12th meeting. So this will be a regular legislative public hearing where speakers do not need to be sworn in. And prior to doing that, I'll be glad to take any questions that the board has on the staff report.
Questions of Mr. Tyson at this time from board members?
Yeah, who determines if he hooks onto the 4-inch water line or the 6-inch water line? I know the 4-inch water line's a lot closer, but is that enough water to furnish 148 houses? Do we know that?
Preliminarily, the county engineer has said he believes that the 4-inch line will work, but ultimately it will be a decision that's made jointly between our Public Utilities Department and the engineer for the developer. But our department is optimistic, I believe, that the 4-inch line could be sufficient.
Other questions? Mr. Outlaw?
It's probably a moot point, but I just want to ask this question. Number 2, you've got a site plan that requires residential development, and you have to follow that plan. So why do you need to say that the property may be developed for any of the land uses as permitted?
There are things in there, like for instance, a swimming pool is a separate land use. Typical accessory uses like a detached garage is a separate land use from a dwelling. And so you either have to go through the table of permitted land uses and identify everything in an RA20 zoning district that you want to permit, or you can eliminate things. But we felt that it is, and what we have been doing is allowing everything that is typically allowed in that zoning district. But it is possible to be more specific than that.
Yeah. Well, I don't know where you'd put a swimming pool if you decide to do that, but these residential lots, they do have the ability to put a building on their lot for storage, I would assume.
Correct.
That wouldn't require them to come back before us.
Correct.
I just don't see that as a needed thing, but that's just me.
Other questions of commissioners? Mr. Lamb?
Yeah, I'm just wondering if our subdivision ordinance has any additional setbacks for transmission lines?
It does not. And typically, in my experience, the utility company doesn't mind development right up to the easement line as long as you don't intrude into their easement. And of course, here it looks like the back line of those lots are intended to correspond with the northern boundary of the easement. There's a little bit on lot 17, I think.
And what is currently our rear setback?
In the proposed zone, it would be 25 feet off of the rear property line.
Okay, thank you.
Adam, a few things I had. First of all, I'd like to make sure the board fully understands when your first word said they have withdrawn what was on the other side of the road. Tell us what that would entail for us to see it again.
The applicant would need to resubmit. He could resubmit with the same sketch he had before. I don't think that's likely. It would at least probably have some changes to provide access to the adjacent properties that addressed a lot of the concerns that were at the planning board. But he would need to submit a new application, and we would need to schedule a public hearing for the northern part of the road to rehear that. So the only thing at issue today is the southern part, and the northern portion of the property would require a separate public hearing in the future.
But by him withdrawing it, would he not have to start the whole process over and go back to the planning board again?
Yes, on the northern portion.
On the northern portion?
Yes, sir.
It would be a complete redo.
Correct.
So all of it would just start over again. That's the part I want to be clear of. The wetlands that's shown is left out of the development. What happens to that, and who maintains it, even though it doesn't require much? But what's the status of that piece of land?
It would typically be owned by a homeowners association, and property owners would have the right to go own it to use as an open space, but likely there would be no development on it. But it would more than likely be held in perpetuity by a homeowners association established for the Strickland Road subdivision.
Okay. And the cul-de-sac I see protruding into that, which I think is called Bumblebee Lane, what's the purpose of that?
Ladybug Drive.
Ladybug Drive? Mm-hmm. Okay, it is Ladybug Drive. Yeah, Bumblebee's the other one. Ladybug Drive, what's the purpose of it going across the easement?
I am not sure why the developer designed it that way. I don't know if there may be some wording in the transmission line easement, but you would, in order to keep people from turning around under that, I'm not sure why that is so long toward the south.
Well, like up on the other parallel road with behind lot 75 through 60, how does that person turn around and inadvertently ends up on that street?
Now, on the west there, because that is intended, let me show you right here is what you're talking about.
Yes, sir.
Because that's intended to eventually, perhaps one day, be a continuing road, there'll be a temporary turnaround here that will involve an easement that takes up a little bit of the front portion of both of these lots. And so there will be a turnaround paved here, but it won't all be dedicated as permanent right-of-way, and it'll be designed to dissolve and go away should this road ever continue off to the west.
Okay.
And that would be the same everywhere that there's a stub road.
I would just see that cul-de-sac, if indeed built like that, becoming a nuisance for people going down there doing whatever. But if in the engineering phase of this development, we could determine why that's like that. And then my last thing, you said it had a 4-2 vote of the planning board.
Yes.
Do you think it was the 4-2 vote, not unanimously? Is it your opinion that it was because of what was on the other side of the road, or just a gut feel for that?
My gut feeling is that it was related to the proposed density, not the specific issues that were on the northern side of the road.
Okay, thank you. Other questions, Mr. Tyson? Sure, Ms. Leggett.
We previously approved several other rezoning requests in this area. At what point does an area like this, where you've approved so many lots, is it kicked into another classification as urban development, like you would typically see right around the town limits?
County doesn't, I'm not exactly sure how to answer that question. The county doesn't have a designation for urban development. We have suburban, which this area is already identified for suburban growth. So there's no automatic upgrade to a more dense designation in the land use plan, and in fact, in the land use plan, it already has the most dense designation that we offer.
Okay, well, what I was getting at is, at what point do we need to look at our ability to serve the area with
Right.
county services?
Right. I think the point that we do that is later this month when we have the kickoff meeting for our land use plan. But of course, if you have concerns about that, that would be a valid reason to have reservations about continuing to rezone property in this particular area.
Other questions?
I-
Mr. Lamb?
These roads are going to be built to state DOT specifications and will be turned over to the state.
Correct. There will have to be enough homes built on them before they'll qualify for the state to take them, but the county will require them to construct them to the state road standard so that they're eligible for adoption.
And you indicated on lot 68 and 69, there would be a temporary cul-de-sac?
Temporary turnaround. cul-de-sac.
Turnaround.
Yep. Mhm.
And when Mr. Williams speaks, I'd appreciate him addressing this cul-de-sac that goes under the transmission lines. And my guess is if they did it on the north side of the transmission line, it would have cut out lot 17. But I'd just like to hear from him if that's possible.
Okay. All right, there's no other questions. Thank you, Mr. Tyson. At this time, I'd entertain a motion to go into a public hearing on this conditional use rezoning.
So moved.
Moved by Commissioner Leggett, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Bellfield. Questions on the motion? All in favor of the motion, let it be known by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed by a like sign? Ladies and gentlemen, we are now in a public hearing to hear this matter about the 21.5 acres rezoning. If there's anyone here this morning that wishes to speak on this, for or against it, the board will be pleased to hear from you at this time. If you would come forward and state your name and address for the record. And one last question, Mr. Tyson, that I forgot to ask you, or maybe Mr. Durham will be more appropriate. The fact that this started under one scenario and we moved out of that scenario, being quasi-judicial in the process, does that mean that we're okay to do it like we're doing it?
I think we're fine.
I think we're fine, okay. Thank you. Anyone wish to speak for or against this item? Good morning, sir.
Good morning, y'all. My name is Michael Dew. I stay at 601 Lindsay Road in Nashville, but my dad stays at 3660 Strickland Road. As you can tell, we were at the planning board meeting previously, and there was 3 more opposition letters that I give to the board to know about, so they need to be added to the list, which weren't on the list when we come last month.
Okay.
But anyway, going back to the north side, I want to say thank you to Mr. Williams for taking them off the board for right now, because I do know there was a whole lot of opposition there. So there was driveways going up, it had been there for hundreds of years probably. I mean, just the way it was. But I'm looking at the size of the lots on the south side. Are we going to be able to handle all the traffic down Strickland Road, even getting to this subdivision? The water, I know that has been talked about with the water line coming in, with 6 inches or 4 inches, but what is it going to benefit the community? That's what I'm looking at. I can see going from the 4,000, from the R40 down to maybe R30, but R20, I think you're getting a little bit too small, my personal opinion, but, I'm looking at, my main thing is the traffic on the road, and plus, what is it going to benefit the people that are already there, that's been there for years and years, which I know, new neighbors are a good thing, and I have no problem with that, but is the community going to be able to sustain that many people coming in? Are we, is, when the developer gets the okay, whether it is to R40, R30, or the 20, are we gonna go ahead and get everything built? And, or are we just gonna do part of it and get it all finished? That's the few concerns I've got. So,
Thank you, Mr.
thank
Dew.
y'all for listening.
Appreciate you being here. Other speakers for or against this item this morning? Mr. Dew, you have some more people with you. Do they support what you said? I would certainly allow you to ask that question, or your, and we appreciate you having one speaker if that's the case. So how many of you support Mr. Dew's cause? Overlap, okay. Okay, thank you. Other speakers? Good morning, Mr. Williams.
Cecil Williams, Jr., 6765 Jordan Road, Elm City, North Carolina. The first thing I reckon I'll address is the cul-de-sac crossing the utility line. That is some beautiful sandy land in there, and we know we're going to have residents that are going to want to go and get into natural areas. That's what it's for. The whole section down there, the 30 acres, is reserved for common area for people to get out and see nature, get into wildlife. And rather than have people park on the other street and walk across the yard and stuff, we just wanted to put a cul-de-sac down. And if the homeowner association decides they want to do some parking, additional parking or whatever in that area, then that'll be fine. We just want to give them access to the common area. That, to answer that question.
Sure, thank you.
And the other I can't see the lot numbers. 69?
69, yes, sir.
It would tickle me to death to pull back and just put my cul-de-sac there and not have to go crossing to do that extension. For the connectivity, the person that owns that property has connectivity to Strickland Road as it is. But we'll do whatever y'all want to do. I just hired these engineers, and this is what they come up with. I think that was all the direct. Didn't that answer everything, or anybody got another question?
Well, why don't you make your comments, and then I'll call for questions. Okay. If we have any.
And my comment is, I'm in the other meetings I've been in, I've heard about the shared driveways was an issue. So direct access to the streets has been issues. So we thought we had put together a perfect plan, which evidently is no such thing in the little green earth we live on, that we have all the lots are facing away from the road and with the non-access easement. That looks like a perfect Nash County subdivision to me from what I've heard the commissioners and the planning board and the TRC recommend. I don't see how it could be improved upon myself, but I'm open to suggestions and hopefully I'll pass this so we can move forward with this development.
Okay. Any questions for Mr. Lamb while he's at the podium? Excuse me.
Yes, ma'am.
What's currently on this property? Looking at the satellite map, looks
Like there's a farm there.
There's some old dilapidated buck barns that are probably 20 years old that need to be removed. There's an old house that is used to, I don't know what, I guess folks used to live in a long time ago. It's dilapidated and needs to be torn down. There's some farm equipment that is, I don't think, usable on the property. It's an eyesore, if you want to know the truth about it.
Okay. Just looking at the satellite map,
Yes,
it looked
ma'am.
like maybe last year it was actively used. Looked like it was actively used for
The farmland is actively
farming.
planted, yes, ma'am. The farmland is actively planted, but the satellite you're seeing and all those buildings and stuff there is just, it's terrible shape.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Other questions of Mr. Williams?
Yeah, Mr. Williams,
Yes, sir.
just a question regarding the infrastructure. The homes that are not facing the road, you've got the road coming in all the way down. Do you plan to go in and actually construct the infrastructure in advance of building the homes, or just do it up at the top, and then as you build down, build the roads? Or exactly how do you plan to do that?
We plan to start and come down with the middle access and come and catch the kiosk, and then on the left side of the road is where there's going to be 4 model homes that'll be built, that the sales office and the model homes will be, and then we'll continue down that road, and then we're going to tee off at the top. There is no road front lot, so.
I guess I'm just interested in, are you going to go ahead and do the infrastructure, get that done?
Yes, we're going to be building roads as
So
we're
all the
selling.
roads on the interior are going to be done?
Yes, sir.
Before you start construction?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thanks.
And that's where we're at on the other subdivisions. Just engineers it's just taking a long time to get construction plans from state approvals and just.
But all the interior roads are constructed before you actually start?
No, we're going to do it in phases.
Okay, I misunderstood then.
Well, I misunderstood the question, I guess, because no, we're not going to do all the roads and then start selling houses. We're going to come down with the center road and start building in phases.
Any idea on the timing for that? Months, years?
No, this will be months. I'm just trying to give what I think is a good answer. We get approval today, probably October before we can start construction. I don't know how long it'll take the new people we have hired to get the road designs done and get the county to approve the water connections, and the state and the county have to approve all the infrastructure, water lines and stuff, so it'll take some time to get that done.
I just would hate to see us go in there and do the road frontage, not facing the road, but do those properties, and then it be a long period of time before you develop the interior.
Right. No, sir. All those lots are under contract, and and of course, the other lots are under contract too on Stony Hill Church Road. But just like I said, we don't have any more. We are dependent now on the engineers and state permits. So that's the only thing that's holding us up. We got equipment, and if anybody's been by Strickland Road, we got equipment sitting there waiting and operators hired to start building the interior streets, but we don't have the permits, and we can't start till we get permits.
Thank you. Other questions?
I have another question.
Mr. Lash?
It was stated by the planning director that utilities had indicated that a 4-inch water line would be adequate. My concern is if you don't construct all the infrastructure up front, including the roads and the water, that other nearby construction may affect that analysis that said a 4-inch line would be adequate. So how do we know that if you just put water lines on the north part here, that in the future, a 4-inch line or a 2-inch line, because you get smaller as you go down a subdivision, will be adequate? I'm just a little concerned about that 4-inch versus 6-inch line, and I guess.
Well, I think when we get the
Can I
engineer
address
set
that,
up.
please?
Yeah, sure.
I would like to address that, please.
Go ahead.
We got a 4-inch line that comes in from the quick pick this way. The 6-inch line comes down from the other way. I would hope and think that if it got to the point that somebody else wanted to do some more developing and we were caught short with the water, that the county would appreciate us putting a loop in so that the water would have connectivity coming from Hornchurch Road over to the other road and putting a loop so the water is coming in from both directions. It's how that would normally be done.
So there's a 6-inch line from the east and a 4-inch line from the west.
That's what I'm told, but I don't
Okay.
know. All I know is if you get them two lines hooked together, then you got water coming in from both ways, and that would go, not only help this subdivision, but then would help the 4-inch line on back
I got you.
down towards the Quick Pick and whatever area that serves would help on the pressure and whatever on that as well.
The 6-inch line from the east is further away, but it is there.
Correct, that's right. That's why we would try to use the 4-inch. What is on Stone Hill Church Road? Is that a 4?
I think so.
So, I mean, that's approved 200, and I forget how many lots there, so all I can do is rely on the engineers and the county people to tell us.
Mr. Lamb, anything else?
Yeah, that's fine, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Williams.
Okay, thank y'all.
Was there anyone else that wishes to speak on this item? Seeing no one, I'd entertain a motion to close the public hearing at this time.
So moved.
Moved by Commissioner Belfield, is there a second? Second by Commissioner Leggett. Questions on that motion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed by like sign? Public hearing is now closed. Are there any more questions for Mr. Tyson at this time from board members? Seeing none, Mr. Tyson said this would be a two motion, right? So the first motion would be to adopt a consistency statement, which would be A or B. And I would entertain a motion in that regard at this time. A motion for a consistency statement.
Make a motion for consistent statement, what is it, A?
A with those items listed.
Yeah.
I have a motion for consistency statement A. Is there a second to that motion?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Arrington. Any questions on the motion? All in favor of that motion, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed by a like sign? Motion carries. The second statement we need is a motion to approve or deny the zoning map amendment. Call for that motion at this time.
Move approval.
Move approval by Commissioner Belfield. Is there a second to that motion?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Arrington. Any questions on that motion?
For the record, that would be subject to the 8 conditions
Correct.
listed.
Mr. Belfield, subject to the record, you're fine with that? And Mr. Arrington?
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right, subject to the 8 items listed, have a motion to approve. All in favor of that motion, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed by a like sign? Motion carries as well. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Tyson, before you leave, I got one question for you. Could you give the board a quick update on what we got as far as the update of our land development code?
Yes.
Where we at with that?
In at July's meeting, I had announced that we had received 4 proposals from 4 different consultants. Our selection committee has selected Stewart out of Raleigh to be our consultant. We are currently negotiating the final points of the scope of work in the contract, but I'm hopeful we could potentially have a contract signed by the end of this week, and they assure me that they'll be able to have a kickoff meeting later in the month of August to get the process started. And the process will stretch from this August to August of 2022. And I am very excited about the services that they're planning to offer and the process that they're going to lay out for us to do this. And I think it's going to be very positive.
Is that contract require board action?
It does not.
Does not require board action. Okay. Mr. Lamb, you look.
No, I was just, the money's appropriated in the budget. Yeah.
Okay. I was just going to tell Mr. Tyson, we anticipate having another meeting this month, which we haven't discussed yet. If indeed you determine it is,
Gotcha.
we'd like to have it on that agenda. Okay, thank you, sir. Anybody need a break, or you want to keep moving? Ms. Leggett, you fine?
For now.
Pardon?
For now.
For now, okay, let me know. All right, we'll move then to item number 8, which is a recognition of Jonathan Edwards, Communications Director for a North Carolina 3C Award. Mr. Lamb, you were to make the presentation.
Yes.
Sounds like a great thing this morning.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, it's a privilege to recognize one of our own this morning. There's an organization in North Carolina called NC3C, which is the North Carolina City County Communicators Association. And they, Mr. Edwards has been recognized in the past by that organization, but this year he really excelled. This year, the 2021 Excellence in Communication Awards were given at the end of April. There were cities, counties, towns participated in the competition. There were 170 entries across 27 categories. Nash County has brought home 8 awards. In the city of Fayetteville, Cabarrus County, the city of Raleigh, Wake County, Fuquay-Varina are just a few of the other competitors. And again, I'm going to detail those 8 awards that Jonathan has been given. The first one's regular programming, first place, Nash County Now. I believe we all have seen episodes of Nash County Now. I think we're on 30-something?
41.
41. 42 will be the next one. And I believe that's gotten an award in the past too, yeah. So he came in first place with that regular programming. Videography, first place, Fort the Farmer, Nash County. And second place, he won first and second. Ag Heroes, Sunburst Tomatoes. He came in second, tied for second for public service announcement, which was his 2 parodies. Thank You Facility Maintenance and Parks and Recreation. Second place in the promotional video, We Are Nash County. That's something that occurred right at the beginning last March or April of 2020. And it was a response to COVID and how our employees were adapting. Very good. And the best use of humor, and I think we all have seen, he got both first place and second place, Parks and Recreation, which was a takeoff of the show, Parks and Recreation. And second place, Thank You Facility Maintenance, which was a takeoff of The Office. That's right. And how many hits did?
Stop counting.
Yeah, I mean, thousands and thousands and thousands of hits. At one time, I know one of Parks and Rec had over 40,000. Yeah, it's probably many more now. But I just want to say that one of the highlights in my 8 years here has been Jonathan and his work bringing Nash County into the communications age. I think it was something that the county was missing until he came along. I'd like to thank Sandy Vick for hiring him in the first place. And we have now, as you know, created a new department, communications department. He's our communications director and our PIO, and he has been working with us on several matters since he assumed that position June 1st. And so I just want to say how proud I am of his hard work, and I don't know how we're going to deal with all these awards, but we got 8 of them here, but it's just amazing what you've done. Thank you. Thank you. Appreciate it.
You want me to hold 4 of them?
Want to get in front of here? That'll work. Why don't you get here?
No, that's Jonathan.
Amazing.
I've got to take right on that. It'll be all right.
It is good, man.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Need a little bag, sir.
We got to get them in extra office.
Mr. Edwards, it will be okay if we see those pictures in some of your future presentations as well. And on behalf of the board, I just want to say how proud we are of what you've done for us in your short time of starting up this department. I really believe in our local area, been counties surrounding us, cities surrounding us, that we are a step above where everyone else is, and I think you need at least 90% of the credit for that. I'm amazed at how much you do. I think you must be like me. You must not sleep a whole lot, apparently. And he's always willing to take a phone call, weekend. It doesn't really matter. Actually, just Saturday morning pretty early, but he never seemed to mind that. Thank you a great deal for what you do. Mr. Lamb, I'm going to stick my foot in the mouth, but we did approve that position for that department in budget.
Yes, the board approved a assistant position.
Right.
Communication specialist,
Right.
it's called. And that job description has been completed. Is it posted?
It's been posted and we'll move on to interviews soon.
Okay, great. So we are in the process of hiring that individual. Okay.
That's correct.
That's good. Thank you. Thank you again.
Mr. Chairman, do we have enough money in the budget to give them a free dinner or something?
I think I'm allowed to spend $1,000 a year, so I think we could arrange that. It would be great if administration would take care of that. Good idea.
We'll do that.
Him and his family, yes. All right, great event. Appreciate it, Mr. Lamb.
Mm-hmm.
Item 9 is a proclamation to recognize August the 1st through the 7th as National Farm Market Week. I call on Sandy Hall to introduce her, Ms. Brown, that she has with her this morning.
Yes, I will. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Thank you so much, and we are also want to congratulate Jonathan. Some of those awards were covering some agriculture focus there and
Yes.
some great work there, and we always enjoy him coming and being a part of those. So congratulations to him. So thank you for this opportunity for Maureen and I to come before you today to celebrate Nash County Farmers Market as we kick off the National Farmers Market Week. And this is also an opportunity for Maureen Brown, our Farmers Market Manager, who is with me this morning, to share the great things that are happening at the market. The Nash County Farmers Market success is contributed to your support and desire to serve our community as well as the surrounding counties, a location, and provide a location for our farmers to sell their fresh, healthy food to the patrons that make Nash County Farmers Market part of their weekly shopping experience. Today, we're here to ask you to proclaim this week as Farmers Market Week. At this time, I'm going to invite Maureen to come forward. She will provide an overview of what's happening at the market, and we'll finish with the proclamation. As she comes forward, thank you so much for the support that you and our county manager has provided for the position to move from full-time, from part-time to full-time. We are grateful, and all the great things that are here to come because of it. So thank you. I'm going to turn it over to Maureen.
Maureen, if you'll pause just a minute, Megan. Thank you, Megan. Welcome. Good morning.
Good morning, Commissioners. First, I would like to take this opportunity to thank you for supporting the farmers market position going to full-time. Next, I would like to give you a few updates on the Nash County Farmers Market. This year, the market was awarded a grant in the amount of $202,000 from Upper Coastal Plains Council of Governments. Funds from the grant are being used to provide 252 CSA grocery boxes weekly, April through September, to senior citizens in 5 local counties. 74 of these boxes are distributed weekly to Nash County. To date, the Nash County Farmers Market has produced, packed, and distributed approximately 3,800 grocery boxes. In 2019, the market started accepting SNAP EBT. Don't know if y'all are familiar with SNAP EBT, but it's greatly needed at this time. In 2020, we received a grant from RAFI, which is the Rural Advancement Foundation International, to provide a match for the SNAP EBT program. SNAP EBT has dramatically increased since its start. In 2019, $1,012 of increased revenue was due to SNAP EBT. In 2020, the year of the pandemic, $27,688 was due to SNAP EBT. And already in 2021, for just 4 months, April through July, $28,310 of revenue was spent at the market from SNAP EBT. In addition to the record numbers in EBT, the market has recorded record numbers of customers attending the market. We've had several Saturdays this summer with approximately 2,000 patrons visiting the market. Several vendors have reported record sales this year as well. As we move forward, we are working to partner with the town of Nashville on their farmers market. Negotiations are still in the works, and nothing has been finalized at this time, but we hope to move forward with that. We are scheduled to make a presentation in September with the Nashville Parks and Rec Advisory Board. Recently, Nash County started participating in the Visit NC Farm Apps program, which is administered by the North Carolina Department of Agriculture. The app allows the consumer to locate farms and agricultural businesses in the area. Several Nash County farms and businesses have been added to this app. A full launch of the site will occur in the next few weeks, and I would encourage all of you to download the app and discover the local Nash County agricultural businesses that are listed on there. As the time goes by, we will add more. The Nash County Farmers Market is a vital part of the economy in Nash County. It is an incubator for businesses in Nash County. It is literally where agricultural businesses come to grow. I'm here today to ask you to join me in celebrating National Farmers Market Week that began August 1st and concludes August 7th. We request that you proclaim it Farmers Market Week in Nash County. And lastly, I would like to welcome and recognize some of the market vendors. Today, I have Freddie Howell and Hannah Howell from H.S. Howell Farms. And then, of course, we have Commissioner Sue Leggett with Strawberry City that are here today. And without them, the market would not be possible. In the interest of time, would you like for me to read the proclamation?
That would be nice, ma'am.
Okay. Nash County Farmers Market Week Proclamation, August 1st through 7th, 2021. Whereas Nash County farmers provide citizens with access to healthy, local, and regionally produced foods through farmers markets, which are expanding and evolving to accommodate the demand for the diverse array of agricultural products. And whereas farmers markets and other agricultural direct marketing outlets provide infrastructure to assist in the distribution of farm and value-added products, thereby contributing approximately $9 billion each year to the U.S. economy. North Carolina's #1 industry is agriculture, generating more than $95.9 billion in the state's economy. Nash County ranks 23rd in the state in total agricultural cash receipts and 5th in cash receipts for fruits, vegetables, and nuts. Whereas farmers markets serve as significant outlet by which small to medium, new and beginning, veteran agricultural producers market agricultural products, generating revenue that supports the sustainability of family farms and the revitalization of rural communities nationwide. And whereas the Nash County Board of County Commissioners recognizes the importance of expanding agricultural marketing opportunities that assist and encourage the next generation of farmers, generate farm income to help stimulate business development and job creation, build community connections through rural and urban linkage, and more. Whereas locally, the Nash County Farmers Market is a bridge for small local farmers to their regional patrons, providing diverse agricultural products and serving as an incubator for the local economy. Now, therefore, to further awareness of farmers market's contribution to Nash County life, Nash County Board of County Commissioners do hereby proclaim the week of August 1st through 7th, 2021 as Nash County Farmers Market Week, in conjunction with the observance of National Farmers Market Week. Nash County Commissioners call upon Nash County citizens to celebrate farmers markets with appropriate observance and activities. This day, August 2nd, 2021.
Thank you, ma'am.
All right, thank you.
Would your vendors like to make any comments? Not to put them on the spot, but they've been
Sure they
with us a
would.
long time this
Would they
morning.
like to make some comments? That would be awesome.
If you would just state your name and address for the record, that'd be great, sir.
It's Freddie Howell, 4371 Massey Road.
Thank you.
So just like to address the commissioners and thank y'all just for the support that y'all given. I know we've got two members of the board here for the Nash County Farmers Market as well, in addition to the commissioners, but just y'all have done an outstanding job at supporting the market, and I think the results that you can see in the numbers, the market's really growing. Just like to thank y'all for the support and efforts that you give back to the community. It is definitely received well, and the people in the community definitely need the local produce. So, thank you.
Well, we greatly appreciate what y'all do. I know it's not easy work, so greatly appreciate it. I'm glad we can accommodate you some way.
Thank you.
Yes,
Thank you,
sir.
Freddie.
Ms. Leggett?
Yes, sir. I would just say that our Nash County Farmers Market just continues to grow stronger every year, both in the diversity of products that are offered there and the diversity of vendors. All has to do with the county support. Our manager, who's very active, advocates very strongly for our vendors. And I think the farmers market plays just such an important role in our community, both for the people who come to buy fresh food there and for the people who are able to offer their products for sale there. Thank you.
Mr. Bellfield, been on the board, do you have anything you'd like to say?
Oh, yes. Since I've been on that advisory board, one thing that I saw that we really needed was somebody full-time working with it, and so I pushed that and thank the rest of the board for agreeing and the county manager to make that position a full-time position so that we can expand activities and operation of the farmers market for the community, Nash County and surrounding area.
Thank you, sir. Anybody else? I just want to say one thing. In my 19 years on the board, I've had some votes that I would like to go back and change, quite frankly. And the one that stands out most to me, quite frankly, is I was a commissioner that voted against building the farmers market in the beginning. I thought the bids come in too pricey to do that, but it was definitely an error on my part, and I'd like to ask for forgiveness this morning, if I could, for voting not to build the farmers market, and so glad that I was on the losing end of that vote.
Yeah, at that time, we were on opposite sides.
We were, sir. And you were right again, what you gonna say next, correct?
Yep, I was pushing it.
Yep.
And you and Miss Morgan was in it too, saying it's too expensive. The steel had gone up and the price had increased tremendously, but I said there was a great need there. And we've been putting that on, it had been on the table way when I was working for Nash County.
Really?
About 15 years. We were pushing for it, so we finally got to it.
Well, it was a mistake on my part.
It's a great thing.
Yes, sir. It was.
Well,
it is indeed.
We're all human, and sometimes we make decisions.
Boy, I was that door this morning.
We make decisions sometimes maybe we didn't have gone in that direction.
Yes, sir. Amen. All right, I'd entertain a motion at this time to approve the proclamation.
So moved, Mr. Chair.
Moved by Commissioner Ayrton. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Combs. Any questions on that motion? All in favor of the motion, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed by a like sign. Proclamation stand approved, and thank you all for being here this morning, all of you. Appreciate it. Nobody has called, but I'm going to call for a 10-minute recess at this time.
Thank you.
Mine's coming up shortly.
Ain't nobody here.
You don't have to run, Madam Clerk. I'm gonna wait for you. I'd like to call us back to order at this time. We finished up with item number 9, and we'll be moving to item number 10, which is a sole source of taser purchase and warranty. I call on Major Eddie Moore at this time.
Good morning, how's everyone?
Good morning, sir. Glad to have you this morning.
Yes, sir. So what we have before you, I hope you guys got a copy of everything, is a request for us to enter into a contract with, a 5-year contract with Axon Incorporated for our tasers. What we're trying to do is we're trying to purchase 100 of the taser devices, which is the Taser 7 is the what we call the 3rd generation taser. It's the latest technology that's available. Tasers are like cell phones. You guys know how cell phone technology constantly changes. Well, tasers are the same way. Excuse me. And some of the tasers that we're still carrying went obsolete 10, 11 years ago, so we're carrying some outdated technology. And what this will allow us to do is to buy 100 of these, give our folks the most up-to-date technology to be able to use. And what it does, it allows us into a 5-year contract. The total cost of it is broke down over 5 years, so we're not paying one huge lump sum at one time. We're paying it over a 5-year period, no interest at all, just broken down into 5 payments. And also, this is a project that we've been working on, myself and Ms. Wood, since about February. So what we did is, working on this, we put in our budget request for this current year, we put in the money to cover this year's first payment, so that money has been in there and approved for us to cover that. So not asking for any more money for this year. So we've got that covered. And I know you guys got it before. Y'all answer any questions you got that if you have or confused on or anything.
Well, it looks like you're doing it under the sole source rule. Can you explain that to the board?
Yes, sir. So, and you're correct. So this is a sole source purchase. In other words, you can't go to any vendor and buy the taser devices. They are only available for purchase from the manufacturer, which is Axon. So that's the reason for the sole source request. Like I said, you can't go to this vendor or that vendor to buy them. They're the only ones that you can get them from.
But what constitutes that is y'all have determined that this is the one you want and don't want anything else? Or
there's nothing else out there that, Axon has basically got a monopoly on the taser or less lethal devices like this. There are no other devices out here like the taser. There was one several years ago that tried, and they quickly went bankrupt.
So the sole source is due to it truly been a sole source and not necessarily that you have predetermined the one you want?
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right. Donna, you good with this?
He is correct. We, finance actually did our research on it, but because of the dollar amount, you can't take the individual cost of each taser. It's over $90,000 and it falls. This is an exception to the formal bidding requirement, and it does qualify for the sole source approval, or sole source exception.
Major, I'm not questioning what you're saying. Yes, I just want the board to understand it, because it is a $300,000 purchase.
Yes, sir.
That we'd be basically agreed to.
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right, any other questions from board members? If none, thank you, sir.
Yes, sir.
I'd entertain a motion for approval or denial of this request. Have a motion to approve by Commissioner Leggett. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Combs and Commissioner Arrington. Any questions on the motion? All in favor of that motion, let it be known by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed by a like sign? Motion carries. Thank you. Number 11 is a renewal of a franchise agreement with Eastern Medical Transport and Metz Medical Transport. Call on Mr. Brantley at this time. Good morning, sir.
Good morning. Good morning, Commissioners. Yes, this is the annual renewal of the franchise agreements. This year we've got applications from Eastern Medical and Metz. This would be the first approval of 2 as required by general statute. And we are requesting approval of these 2 franchises, and I'll be back in September for the second approval.
This the only 2 we're using now?
Yes, sir. We had 3 this past year, but it was quite a challenge to get them to help us at all. And so we just, I don't know if they didn't submit an application or if Scott just didn't send them an application, but I think they knew the writing was on the wall.
Okay. Any other questions of Mr. Brown? Thank you, sir.
No, it's on an as-need basis. When we can't handle the call, we'll call them, and they come in and run the call for us. And it's really helpful when we're trying to meet the requirements of the hospital, because they can hit us with a large number of transports, especially in the afternoons. And there's sometimes, if we've got people out or we've got short staff, then we don't have but maybe 2 trucks running, then we'll call them to try to speed that process up. And we've been meeting with the hospital, and they have been very supportive recently of working with us so we can handle those transports rather than giving them to the franchisees. So that helps our revenue, and they've been really helpful to us.
Other questions? Entertain a motion for approval or denial of this request.
Make a motion to approve.
Motion to approve by Commissioner Combs. There's a second.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Leggett, Commissioner Arrington. Any questions on that motion? All in favor of that motion, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed by a like sign. Motion carries as well. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Item number 12 on the agenda is an animal facility capital project audit. I'll call on our finance director, Ms. Wood, at this time. Good morning, ma'am.
Good morning. What I have before you is a capital project ordinance to initiate the animal facility project. The project ordinance is created for the accounting and financial reporting for the construction of a new animal facility on property located on Eastern Avenue. The Board of Commissioners approved capital funding of $600,000 in the fiscal year 22 budget ordinance. These funds will be transferred from the general fund to the project. Additional funding for the project is anticipated to be provided by a donation restricted to the project. So what I have before you is a capital project for the initial $600,000.
All right, any questions on this one? Entertain a motion for approval.
Move for approval.
Moved by Commissioner Outlaw, a second. Second by Commissioner Arrington. Any questions on that motion? Any questions about the animal shelter? Seeing none, all in favor, let it be known by saying aye. Any by a like sign. Motion carries, ma'am. And while you're here, we've got budget amendments, item 13.
Okay. I have some additional reappropriations of fund balance, $44,813. The first one is with our aging services. This is to reappropriate senior center programs, senior center donations, and cost share programs, cost share programs and Project Lifesaver unspent fiscal year 2021 funds in the amount of $23,054. The next item is with Parks and Recreation to reappropriate sponsorship support collected in fiscal year 21 for summer and fall sport events. It's $2,000. And the final reappropriation is with Department of Social Services to reappropriate special children adoption funds unspent in fiscal year 21 of $19,759. The next budget amendment that I have is with the county capital, as we just talked about with the animal facility. This budget amendment is to transfer the county capital funds budgeted for the animal facility building to the animal facility capital project, $600,000. And the next item is with the sheriff's office. This is not additional money, it's just financial reporting, budgeting that I put in place based on the sole source. It's a budget amendment to budget the purchase of the 100 tasers as approved from the sole source agenda item. Payments for the tasers are spread over a 5-year period. The annual payment due in fiscal year 22 is budgeted within the service maintenance account. But what this does, it basically sets up, it's it's a financing of 5 years for the 100 tasers, so it's $282,000.
Any questions on those 5 budget amendments? Seeing none, entertain a motion for approval.
So moved.
Moved by Commissioner Outlaw, a second.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Belfield. Any questions on the motion? All in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed by a like sign. Budget amendment stand approved. Thank you. Next item on the agenda is board appointments. I call on Stacy at this time for board appointments.
Good morning.
Good morning.
The first one that we have is for the UNC Nash Healthcare System Board of Commissioners. I've not received any new information about those appointments at this time.
Mr. Lamb, are you leaving?
No. Say something to her.
Okay. I'm going to, go ahead, and I'm going to ask you to give an update on that meeting that you and I and Sue had last week. What, go ahead if you want to.
No, it was just a comment.
Okay.
Yeah, the chairman, Commissioner Leggett, and I met with approximately 7 or 8 members of the Nash Hospital Board, and we talked about several things, including their $150 million capital plan, which will include I believe a new tower, and we also discussed the appointments, and I'm not sure what exactly was resolved, but
my memory was the board expressed a little bit of disappointment that it was taking this long to get the recommendations from them. But I think they told us they'd have them to us for our November meeting, Sue, do I remember correctly? Okay.
Right.
So it looks like it will be at our November meeting before they basically just reconvened their nominating committee and started the process over. I think they've now interviewed 4 people, and we do expect to have a recommendation for our November meeting.
Right.
And I don't have my notes from that meeting, but is that what you recall?
yeah, they've been, it's going to end up being a 1-year delay from when they normally make those appointments. They have 12 members right now. They indicated that the norm is 14 to 17 for hospitals, and so we are going to see something towards the end of the year. 2 new names.
What we got planned is, just as Mr. Lamb said, it's just really beginning that process, and we'll hear a lot more about that moving forward.
Right.
And we are in the process of, through the consultant that was hired, negotiating the terms of the new lease, and it's moving along, but still got some time before we get that. We made a commitment from both boards that we would do our best to have that wrapped up and approved by the end of the year, so we really got to keep moving on.
Yes, sir.
Yep. All right, any questions on that?
Okay.
Go ahead.
The next one is for the Tourism Development Authority, the TDA. We've got vacancies for 2 collector members. Chairman Davis has provided a recommendation for Beth Ann Rose, and her application was in your board packet.
I will give an update that I have also got a second one to recommend that works for another set of hotels in town, the 2 newest ones that were built out at Winston Avenue. I was hoping to have that lady's paperwork before this morning, but I've just checked and I don't have it yet, so I will have another one to recommend at the next meeting. I really want her application before that, but she will be another. And what we're trying to do is keep all of the hotel owners represented on this board. So this is one that we do not. Currently ends have a representative now, and the one that I'll be bringing next month, we don't have a representative for that particular one either. Local owner, Mr. Patel, that has owned numerous motels in Nash County. He's down now to owning 2 new ones. But that's who I hope to have. In fact, he's already given me the name, and I've discussed it with the young lady. And she does live in Nash County, and she should have that to me 40 days ago, and I hope, but I'll bring it next month. But the Beth Rose has been working in the county for quite a while in this industry, and is now with the Country Inns and Suites out there near the same intersection. So I would ask for approval of that one, if we could, and I would make the motion to approve this young lady. If I could get a second to it.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Outlaw. Any questions on the motion? Seeing none, all in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed by a like sign. Thank you. That motion stands approved.
Okay, and the next one is for the Nash County Board of Adjustments. We are still in need of an alternate member number 3. And then the note that our planning director has offered is that we currently do not have anyone on that board that serves from Commissioner District Number 2, Mr. Bellfield's district. And I have not received any nominations at this point.
Mr. Belfield, you want to look into that and see if we can come up with somebody out of your district?
I thought you said district, did you say 2 or 3?
2.
Oh. For the Board of Adjustment?
Yes, sir.
I thought I had put someone on that Board of Adjustment, but maybe it was somebody from another district. I'll work on it.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, and then the next one is for the Braswell Memorial Library Board of Trustees. We have a vacancy on that board that we need to fill. Mr. Cohn, or Commissioner Cohn, we got some information about that board, just for everyone's information. They meet on the second Wednesday of even months at 11:45 a.m. So that's the months of February, April, June, August, October, and December. They meet there at the library, and then another question that was asked was about pay, and there is no pay for this role. And I can forward that information out to everyone via email so that you have it as you continue to look.
I've been talking to somebody, so maybe you said somebody from Bailey, Middlesex, or Spring Hope, so I'm working on one.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. And then the last one is going to be for the Nash County Planning Board. We still have a vacancy that we need to fill on that board. And again, our planning director provided information that we currently don't have anyone representing District 2, Mr. Belfield, or District 7, Mr. Davis.
I have talked to several people about District 7 and plan to have a person bring forward at the next meeting.
Okay. Okay.
And we filled one seat.
We did.
That was in Mr. Cohn's district, I think. Okay.
Yeah.
So I will have you someone from District 7. There is quite a bit of development going on in that district. I'd like to have that. Mr. Belfield, if you're okay with it. You're okay if I find someone from my district, since we've got a lot of development in that district, or you're not?
Okay, I mean, I'm okay with it.
Okay.
But
yes,
I will say this, I'll go back to this. Do we have minority representation on that planning board, other than just tokenism, one person?
I would have to look at the makeup of that board and get that information to you.
I'm not sure either, Mr. Belfield.
But it's fine. But
okay. I will say on the
take a look at that.
Okay, I will.
And
I will say on the TDA board, I know you asked about that. The other lady that I'm expecting something from will fulfill your request on that particular item. She will be a minority when I get her application in.
Thank you.
Okay, that it?
Yes,
All right.
thank you.
Next item, number 15, is the monthly tax report, and we'll call on Ms. Sumner at this time.
All right, good morning.
Good morning. Good morning.
At this time, I'd like to present the monthly tax report. As you know, this report is designed to keep the board current on activities in the tax collector's office. The report is for your information only and does not require approval. However, it is recommended that you accept the report so that it be noted in the minutes, and if there are any questions on that, I'd be glad to answer.
Pretty early in the year, any questions on the tax report? Seeing none, thank you, ma'am. And will be noted in the minutes, Madam Clerk.
Thank you. And there are no refunds this month for consideration or for approval, so.
All right. Looks like you get an easy month. No, you got another one coming here.
Yes, sir, I have
No
another one
refunds.
coming
Go
up.
ahead to item number 17.
Okay, item 17 is the annual settlement. As described in North Carolina General Statute 105-373, the tax collector will submit to the governing body an annual settlement of monies received during the prior fiscal year. And that's, I'd like to do that at this time. As you already know, we had another great year of tax collections that ended on June the 30th. And the annual settlement, I'd just like to point out just a few items on that. Our current year, our levy was $54,534,422.43 in levy, which grew about 3.3% from the prior year. Our total collections was $54,075,744.91, which we collected roughly over about 3.4% more than the prior year. And our outstanding receivables for the current year of 2020 ended at $458,677.52, which we had collected more in the we collected more this year than we did from the last year. So that's always a good sign, and we have more levy and more bills to process and collect. On our all years, our levy was $57,498,088.18. Our collections was $54,746,356.83, and an ending receivable of $2,751,731.35. And that rate was 95.21%, which was an increase from the prior year. And our prior years, our levy, $2,963,665.75. Our collections, $670,611.92. And our ending receivable, $2,293,053.83. And this is a positive result any year that we were able to increase the collections from a prior year. Our Nash County real estate only, our levy was $42,554,907.91. Our collections were $42,173,871.22, and we had an ending receivable of $381,036.19, and we had a collection rate of 99.10% on our real estate only property, which this was really, really great, and it was a great accomplishment for us this year. And our personal property, our levy was $4,507,151.25. Collections, $4,429,509.92. We collected roughly about 4.3% more in our personal property, despite our rate did slip some this year in personal property. And again, I attribute that a little bit to our gap bills for motor vehicles. And this is a class that we will try to concentrate on in the coming fiscal year. And motor vehicles, we had an outstanding year in collections for motor vehicles. And as you know, those are collected through the DMV. And we had about $823,290.27 more in motor vehicle collections than we did the prior year. don't know if that rate will continue for next year, but we had an outstanding year for motor vehicles.
I don't know how it ends. On the new car lots to buy.
I know. And countywide, our rate increased up to 98.92%, and this is an improvement, and this also includes our collections for the 6 towns and 18 fire districts that we collect for. And our countywide, in prior years, we started out at a levy of $3,920,939.77. Our receivables are $3,101,768.64. This is countywide. So we ended up at 20.89% versus 15.11% from last year. So even though there was less prior year to collect, we still collected more than the previous year in our prior years. And then for the Nash County dogs, current prior year, those collections were all up as well. And that concludes that portion of that. And if there are any questions, I'd be glad to answer.
Any questions of Doris at this time?
I would just comment that the motor vehicle increase that she pointed out comes to about 12.4% increase, which is really remarkable.
Yeah, it is.
That those new cars are being sold like that.
Anything else you have?
Yes, sir. I just wanted to say, I want to thank the Nash County Tax Office staff for their hard work and dedication this year. Even with COVID, people worked as hard as ever, and I appreciate that very much. And of course, I want to thank the County Manager's Office, Stacy, for all that you do to help me every month, and Mr. Durham's office and all his associates, and the board for your support. And last but not least, I want to thank the citizens of Nash County for their efforts to pay their taxes and for allowing us to continue to serve them. The real stars of this year's collections are the taxpayers of Nash County. And I appreciate all that they've done to try to pay their taxes and to increase that tax rate, as we ended at 99.16, a little bit over from the year before.
Right. I don't think we could have said it better. Appreciate that.
Yes, sir.
Toward the taxpayers.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Those are the stars. And I have just a 2-action motion. One is that approve the tax collector report for tax year 2010 through 2020, which was fiscal year July 1, 2020 through June the 30th, and then to recharge the tax collector with the outstanding taxes and responsibility for collections for the years 2011 through 2021.
Okay. All right, I'd entertain a motion first to approve the report.
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Belfield, a second.
Second.
Second by the majority of the board. All in favor of the motion, let it be known by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed by light sign. Report stands approved, and then entertain a motion to charge Doris for the next year to bring us a similar report.
So moved.
Moved by Commissioner Outlaw, a second.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Belfield. Questions on that motion? All in favor of the motion, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed by a light sign. Motion carries as well, ma'am.
All right.
One question before you sit down. What is the earliest that you can, by statute, send out tax bills?
July, if you can get them out, July. We're working on them right now. Hopefully, we'll have them out in another couple of weeks.
Okay. I know I got my stack from an adjoining county early last week, which I was surprised at Halifax County, how quick those came out. I don't think
Yes, sir.
they've come out quite that quick before.
Mr. Chairman, could we give the taxpayers a round of applause for paying their tax, that we really appreciate what she has reported to us, that the taxpayers are doing their part.
Amen.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Aaron. Thank you, Ms. Sumner.
All right, thank you.
Okay, that was item number 17. We'll move to 18, which is commissioner comments, and I'd be glad to hear from any sitting board member at this time. any comments you may have.
Well,
Mr. Belfield?
I have written a report on the national
Yes, sir.
meeting and walked out there trying to hurry up and get over here on time and left it at home. But I would make some comments. I thought we had a very good convention, well planned. The Prince George County only had 3 months to plan it, where it had normally been taking 3 years for the hosts, but they put it together in 3 months, which was remarkable. One workshop that I did attend, I don't know if you may be aware of it or not, but NACO's got a plan now where they work with counties and states on debt collection. And there are 4 states, I believe Florida, California, Utah, and Arkansas, I believe were the 4 that they said have already bought into the plan. Have you gotten any information about it?
I have not, and I'm just wondering if it's not similar to what our association did years ago with the debt set-off.
Well, I thought about that. Based on my understanding of it, it is similar.
Yeah, we have the power to seize someone's state refund check through the debt set-off program, but I know of no authority to intercept someone's federal check. So I can only think that the NACO is a state-by-state
And they do it,
program.
They do it, it's free up, depending on your collections. They may get up to 20%, but most of their expenses at this point, they don't put no charge on.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we got to give credit to our state association for their implementation of this plan like 10 years ago. Not only can we intercept someone's state income tax refund for property taxes, but vehicles, water bills, it's got to be $50 or more. But and this program's been very successful, and we are currently utilizing the program. So if it's just the same thing, but at a national implementation way, it's good they're doing that for other states, but I think we're well positioned with our state association program.
Yeah. Yeah, I know the state association had this, but I wouldn't, do they charge anything? The state association, I'm not aware of it.
No charge? I don't, seems like
But-
there might be, but I don't remember.
Anyway, that's a service that the NACO is providing to states and counties.
There is a
Especially-
charge, but it's not the association, it's DOR charges a fee for every pool that you do. Yeah.
And there were some vendors that at the national meeting that work with counties in doing the same thing. So you have private companies out there that's also doing similar work. Broadband was one that they placed a lot of emphasis on, especially getting it into these rural areas with this pandemic that we're going through, and young people in school that may not be able to get to school, and giving parents a choice of whether they want them to go to school or work through. They have the capability with broadband to not to have to attend school if the pandemic is of such. So that was one of the workshops I took advantage of going to. There were several others I went through, but I'll stop at this, that I thought the conference was very interesting. It was just 3 months to put it together, when the host county had, in the past, had 3 years to do it, and this county did it in 3 months, and it was remarkable. I think that I'll stop at that.
Thank you, Mr. Belfield. Do I recall, did you ride the train to this or not?
I rode the train.
You did ride. Was that pleasurable?
I didn't want to drive, so I caught the train. Good ride.
That work out good?
Sure did.
Great.
Very comfortable. On the train, your seats are much further apart than they are on a plane. They crowded on a plane.
Yep.
You got plenty of room on the train.
Right. Okay.
Plus, they got a dining area where you can go and sit, and if you want to buy something to eat, you can do it, or you want to go in there and get on your computer and work your laptop, whatever you have. You can do it.
Right.
You can charge your telephone on that too. You can plug it in.
Any other commissioners have comments or questions?
I want to mention that our next mid-month where we have presentations will be in September. We have got recommendations for Tri-County Industries for the outside presentation. They've got a new president. I think it'd be good to bring her in, let her introduce herself and tell us a little bit about what the organization does, especially for the new members of the board. And then for the inside presentation, the recommendation is the senior center with the center opening back up. So those are the recommendations that have been received, and in the absence of any other recommendations, that would be what I would recommend.
Thank you, Mr. Outlaw. Other board members? Okay. Seeing none, I'll be very brief and give you the housing report for the month that we just closed up. We had 23 new housing permits. Out of those 23, which still fascinates me, it was by 15 different builders. I did note one thing that I think may be a typographical error. I'm not sure, but if not, we have a multi-section home that's going to be built this month that was permitted, that I'm going to go look at when they start doing it. It was at 1985 Mount Zion Road, and the total permit indicates the home value will be a little over $1.3 million. So that would be interested if indeed that is not a error on the report. I'm just not sure. But it's still strong, still looks good, and just pleased that we've got continued growth in the housing market, because that's certainly drives the total assessed value for the county. If there's no other reports from commissioners, I'd like to turn it over to our county manager, Z. Lamb, for his report at this time.
Okey-doke. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Got a few things here today. The Land Use Development Plan Committee has selected a vendor, as you heard earlier, and the staff is finalizing the scope of the work and the contract. It'll be reviewed by the county attorney, and the project will begin once it's approved and signed. And I'd like to thank, he's gone, Adam, for his work on this, as well as the committee. A committee has also been formed to discuss the development of a job description for the security positions that were approved in the budget for this building. The initial idea was to have 3 part-time people. A committee is meeting to discuss the development of an RFP for the salary study that was approved in the budget Hope to get that out this month. A committee is meeting to begin the use of the $27,000 awarded to Nash County for cleanup of abandoned manufactured homes program. I have formed a committee to make recommendations to the board regarding the use of the $18.3 million American Rescue funding. The committee has met twice. The details are that we've already received half of that money, and we'll get the other half next year around June, May or June. We have 4 years to spend all of that money, and one thing the committee will be announcing, will be bringing to this board at the next meeting will be, we've been told it's allowable, but we want our attorney to sign off on it, and that is an incentive for our employees to get vaccinated. This incentive would be payable to any employee who has been vaccinated or gets vaccinated by a date certain. And again, we will bring that to the board at the recess meeting that I understand will be scheduled at the end of the meeting. As I just said, there is going to, we are recommending a second meeting in August to deal with the incentive funding as well as the detention center award on the bids we received on Thursday. Reminder about the NCACC annual conference in Wilmington will be the August 12th through the 14th. That's next Thursday through next Saturday. Reminder that Monday, September the 6th is Labor Day, and the September board meeting will be on Tuesday, September 7th. As you've already heard from Ms. Sumner, we had an excellent collections year, 99.16. Every year we say we can't get much higher, and she does it every year. So just can't say enough about them. With those collections, I believe our total amount of revenues percentage just from the tax collection office is 55% of all our revenues. And that's a number that's been going up as we have increased our collections. We did it with increased collections, not because of tax increases. Sales tax for June, the 12th month of the year, and Donna will be sending out a report for the entire year, 12-month period, once we get this money in, which is usually the 10th, but we get notified on the 1st of the month, was a whopping $1,732,690. So again, for the year, we're going to have several $1 million more than what we budgeted. And it just shows that our economy in Nash County is doing well despite COVID. Unfortunately, I've got some good news and some bad news. The bad news is that because of the Delta variant that is quickly dominating to the tune of about 90% of all new cases, After the CDC said if you were vaccinated in May, you didn't need to wear a mask indoors, they have reversed themselves. I've discussed this with staff and our health director, and we are implementing a new indoor mask requirement beginning tomorrow morning at 8 o'clock. We have signed an agreement on redistricting with an attorney to help us once the numbers come in at the end of this month. We had thought it was going to be later in October, but all the information we're getting now is that the final redistricting numbers will be available at the end of August. I do want to say a couple things about Ms. Wells. It's always tough when you're a county manager and you lose a commissioner. She was very special, I know, to all of us, and she really was a wonderful lady. She loved every one of you guys and girls, ladies. I'm sorry. She really cared about this board. She was a consensus builder. She had the highest ethical standards, and she had told me at the last meeting that she was going to go out when I went out. As a manager, she was going to retire about the same time, and unfortunately, she didn't make it. But she's a wonderful lady, and I know I'm preaching to the choir. She really was like a second mother. She's the same age as my mother, and she really did mean a lot to me. And finally, I want to formally let the board know, I indicated earlier that I would give the board a definitive 6-month notice on my retirement, and at this time I would like to announce that I will be retiring the 1st of February. So I've really enjoyed being here in Nash County. Y'all have been good to me. You've been good to all the employees, quite frankly. And I love county government, but sometimes you just need to move on to the next chapter in your life. And so I will be no longer in county government, no plans to be in county government, and I will work some in the private sector with my family. So thank you all for the opportunity to be your county manager during the last 8 years. And I have mixed emotions, but it's what I need to do. So thank you all.
Thank you, Mr. Lamb. I will say you're a man of your word. You told us when we hired you that you would stay here till you retire, if you recall telling us that. I'm going to ask a question here. You mentioned about your rules for the building moving forward. Is there anything that needs to be said about the procedures at our next commissioner meeting so we can make that announcement in public today as well? Or would there be any changes in the way we're conducting the meeting, or are you that far along with your studying of the matter yet?
Yeah, my idea, and we can formalize that, is that we move back to the procedures that we had prior to the CDC saying if you've been vaccinated, you didn't need to wear a mask indoors. When that occurred, we put signs up saying that if you'd been vaccinated, you didn't have to wear a mask, but we had no way of really policing that. It is, as of today, just a hope that people would wear masks if they hadn't been vaccinated. But with the Delta virus, we really, particularly the county health director, believes we should, for indoor, we should go back to wearing masks. I'm not suggesting a 10-person limit like in the very beginning at this point. That was part of a state executive order. But we may want to continue closed sessions in this room rather than going into a conference room. But for now, we're just going to change the signs on the door and ask people once again, unfortunately, to wear a mask when they are in our county buildings.
So the commissioners should be prepared to have a mask on when we come back to the next meeting?
We would request that.
Yes, sir. Okay. And the public, anybody coming to the meeting should have one on, which is really the word I want to get out this morning, if that's going to be the case.
That's correct.
Okay. All right.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir.
Just for clarification, if, I agree with the mask thing, but if we come in and we have proper distance, are we allowed, would we be allowed to take the mask off?
Yeah, I would say that when y'all were up there
I'm
and...
just thinking about in general for people when they come in your working space, for example.
I'm sorry, yes. Even previous to May, if you were in your office alone, you were able to take off your mask. It's only when another employee or the public comes into a small confined
So
office.
it would be masked when you don't have proper distance.
Yes, yes. I'm not, as opposed to, I'm not sure what the distinction is.
Well, the distinction is that I'm thinking, you know, if you put a mask on when you walk in the door and I've got 20 feet between myself and Mr. Hill, would there be any benefit in me keeping the mask on?
Right.
I mean, because the mask is quite frankly uncomfortable, and I'm constantly putting my hands on it. I don't know what I'm doing to it, but I agree with the mask. But I just think there's got to be some flexibility to take the mask off when you've got proper distance. That's a part of the CDC guidelines.
There is, absolutely.
Just, that probably needs to be clarified.
Okay.
Okay.
And just, I'm sure the board knows, but your ARP committee is made up of about 8 county employees, and you asked myself and Mr. Arrington to be on the committee.
I did ask the two of y'all to also be on the committee.
And what you're speaking about at our next meeting that we're going to set a time and date here in a minute is you're going to want to discuss, because I think the board, and I know as chair, I am very much wanting to move our employee vaccination rate considerably higher than what it is, which Mr. Hill is probably somewhere in the 44 range, possibly 44% range. And I just feel like if our employee base is willing to help us set the example that the commissioner set from day one, and all of us got vaccinated, it's got to help general public some if we could do that. So we'll get the details on that when you finish working that out at our next meeting. But I'm glad to see you planning to bring that forward, quite frankly.
Mr. Chairman, can I make one comment on that? Can we know exactly what the percentage of vaccination is, if we decide to do this, before we provide this incentive? And then I'd like to know what the vaccination rate is after the incentive is provided, to see if it moved the needle.
Right.
Because I know in the state of North Carolina, I think the governor has given away $4 million, I believe, and I don't know that it's really moved the needle. But I'd be interested in seeing if it does move it.
Yeah, I would ask our health director if he can get that information. We'll provide that. And I agree, the lottery did not move the needle much, but all reports are that in the last week, because of the Delta variant, that increases are being seen throughout the country.
I hope so.
I think we actually may have increased percentage here in Nash County at McDonald's last week, more than what the lottery did, and didn't cost us anything, did it, Mr. Hill, other than the employees' time and putting the clinic together.
How many did we do at McDonald's?
61 shots. Not great, but more than we anticipated.
Right. And it was nothing more than just the hype of the news media saying what's going on. And I don't think anybody went over there to get a free chicken sandwich. They may have, I'm not sure, but we just got to make them aware. We just got to do a better job of making the public aware. And I don't know what to do, but we've tried and tried.
Right. I believe they had like reservations for 30, and then they had 30 walk-ins, so.
56 of those were first shots. They were come in for second shots, but we expected those to be first, and 56 were first shots. So we'll see some return, hopefully.
And I think that is indicative of the increases we're seeing because of the Delta variant and the concern about that variant. That's all.
Can I ask another question? Sure. Do we have any figures on how many positive tests have not been vaccinated, how many hospitalizations are people that have not been vaccinated? I'm assuming that's the majority.
I think what you're asking, the number of hospitalizations that we have, how many of those are not vaccinated? I have tried to obtain that information, but was unable to. The hospital does not track it by vaccinations. I would think that would be one of the key questions that have. But I think you can assume that 90-some% are unvaccinated that are in the hospital.
I saw a number this morning that said over 99% of all new positive cases are unvaccinated people. There are those cases where people have been vaccinated and they get a less severe new case of coronavirus, but chances are they will not end up in a hospital.
Okay.
Anything else, Mr. Lane?
No.
Okay. All right. The next item then is our closed session, and the closed session will be for 3 items. It will be economic development, it will be for matters of attorney-client privileges, and it will be for a personnel matter.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, ma'am.
did you want to go ahead and schedule that second meeting for August?
I can do it now, yes, ma'am, that would be good. So it is proposed to do it on August the 16th at 2:30 is what has been proposed. Can everybody check and see if that'll work for them? Mr. Lamb had a speaking engagement at 1 o'clock that he can move if he has to, but if we do it at 2:30, he can be here. Did I get that right, Mr. Lamb?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Everybody good with that time? Yep. And we will recess to that when we come back out after closed session.
About 3 o'clock.
Sir?
How about 3 o'clock?
How about 3 o'clock?
Yeah.
I don't have a problem with 3 o'clock, whatever the board wishes to do.
Did he say the 16th?
The 16th. 3 o'clock good? Seeing no one speaking up, we'll set it for 3 o'clock when we come back out then.
That's our second meeting at...
It's going to be a recess meeting. We did not have a second meeting in August. And the primary reason we're meeting is to move forward with the jail bids that came in last week. Because we need to award it or do what we're going to do quick as we can to protect the prices from going up any more than they've already gone up.
No, we're setting it for 3.
That was suggestion of Mr. Arrington, yes, and nobody has expressed any opposition to that. You okay with it?
Yeah.
Okay.
I just... I just want to know
Okay,
the correct time.
3 o'clock then, yes, sir.
On the 16th.
On the 16th, yes, sir. All right, if there's nothing else, do we have anything in closed session, Mr. Durham, you expect action to be taken on?
No, sir.
Or Mr. Lamb? Okay. Seeing none,
No, sir.
What's that?
I said no, sir.
Okay, all right. With your mask on already, he's ready. I'd entertain a motion to go into closed session at this time.
So moved.
Moved by Commissioner Combs, second by Commissioner Leggett. Any questions on that motion? And I think we're going to the back room one more time. Okay, we go to Commissioner's conference room. All in favor of that motion, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
And opposed by a like sign. And Amy, if you and Major would be on standby for us to call you after that's over. Thank you.